Good evening and welcome to Mechanics of the Fourth Wall. Joining myself and Antonio Subarat tonight is Patricia Steer of Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes. How are you doing, Patricia?
I'm doing great. Thanks to you both for having me on Mechanics of the Fourth Wall. We're going to break through the fourth wall on through to the other side today/tonight.
Yes, we are definitely going to do this.
We sure are. The main, what would you call it, the title of this event is Social Dynamics or Flat Earth Social Dynamics. And I like to explain Flat Earth in two different ways. One is Flat Earth, and that is the websites, the proofs, the debunkings, the social elements, the trolls, all those things sit in Flat Earth. And the other is the fact that the Earth's flat, which to me seems to have slipped into a different category, which we may or may not touch on. So this won't be a ram-packed Flat Earth proof show tonight, but we will definitely be talking about Flat Earth. And maybe Patricia can start us off by telling us where you draw the line between proofs and just the social aspects, bearing in mind you've just come back from the first Flat Earth mixer.
Yes, that happened where I currently live in Houston, Texas. It was really great, really successful. And as of the recording of this show, which is April 26, 2016, I'm going to be putting a video on my channel, one of many videos that I'll put them out little by little of that event for those interested. It went great, and I hope others do meetups and film them. It just helps everyone feel connected. We are connected, but seeing actual flat earthers side by side as opposed to just seeing one or two talking heads on a hangout video, it really just shows how we are more alike than we are different. But the question that you asked, and the topic of social dynamics, Flat Earth proofs is not my specialty. Everyone knows that, never said it was. What I have decided to do with my channel, as many know, is talk to people who have the Flat Earth proofs. But I really talk about Flat Earth from a heart-centered, emotional aspect and interpersonal relationships, how it affects us on a deeper psychological level, how it affects our friends and family and how we go about our day, and what it means to us on an almost cellular level. So that's where I am. When it comes to proofs, I rely upon people who have more expertise in that area. I can prove the Earth is flat simply by going outside and using my eyes, but I'm not going to do a video with a proof in it. I think the proof is simply there in our senses.
This is why I wanted to have you on, because, oh, sorry, I forgot to do the Spanish accent that I think I will do sometimes, when I'm talking. So, because of the role you play, which is introducing people to a much larger audience than some of them have. Some have a large audience anyway, but the connection that you make to new flat earthers and people looking into this, it's difficult for them to find. How can they discern who has good videos, who doesn't? And when they'll come across your videos, and your videos has a list of lots of other people that might be, some are better than others, but people can then make up their own mind. But you have like a catalog. You introduce people and you include them into the catalog. So when I came across your channel, it was like, oh, brilliant! I've been trying to figure out how to figure out who to look at, and there was your channel. So your role, the role you play, which is this introductory role, I don't see why anybody should think that you should also have proofs. No, many of the people you bring on have their own proofs, and if people want to go and look at those, then they're cool. But this is why I wanted to have you on this show with us to discuss those social aspects rather than proofs. There's all kinds of aspects. There are flat earth aspects that don't have anything to do with proofs, like the interactions, like the infighting, like some of those things.
Do you guys in the UK have a toy for children called Tinker Toys? Tinker Toys. Many Americans might remember it. And I'll describe it. Maybe you have it under a different name. There's these, probably they're made of plastic now, but when I was growing up, there was a wooden circular thing, and it had lots of holes in it on each side all the way around. And then you got these multicolored sticks. And Tinker Toys was a construction building toy, more favored by boys than girls, but I liked it. And you would take the circular connector piece with all the holes in it and take the multicolored sticks and put it in there and then connect with more connector pieces, and you could build something.
Yes, yes.
I consider my role to be that connector piece, and together we're building something. So it's the best analogy I can come up with, and if you don't know Tinker Toys, look it up. You'll kind of know what I mean. I find that being a connector of other people was very pleasing to me, and people have asked me, why do you do this? Why do you put out so many Flat Earth videos? I think that's a crazy question. I'm compelled to. I'm interested in social dynamics, human psychology, way before Flat Earth. It's something that's always intrigued me. Even when I was a radio DJ and for a brief time a talk show host in small markets in the United States, I was always, aside from just playing records, I'd talk about the artists and what their hometown was when I would talk about the songs. To me, that's interesting to know those things. And now that's sort of carried over into doing Flat Earth and other hot potatoes. But with the social dynamics of the Flat Earth, I believe nothing is off limits. Anybody can do their channel any way that they want to do it. If they want to do a channel and talk about Flat Earth and Hitler, go for it. If they want to do a channel and talk about Flat Earth and natural medicine, go for it. I talk about veganism. It's a big passion of mine, and Flat Earth. So I go for it. I encourage everyone to do it, or just strictly stick to Flat Earth if that's what you want to do. Policing each other in some ways is good, and in some ways is bad, and maybe we can get into that. Sometimes I think there needs to be more self-policing within the Flat Earth movement, but not about your freedoms to talk about what you wish, but about how you treat other people. And some would say, hey, you're trying to police how we treat other people. But in a society of any sort, even if we get rid of the governments we have now, we will have to, at some point, police how we treat other people, because you can't just go into your neighbor's house and break the door down and steal all of their food and punch their dog in the face. There's something in place socially that will prevent the crazier people from doing that, or at least put a stop to it. Most of us have something inside of us that would never allow that to happen. But within the Flat Earth community, there are a few people who break into your house, steal all your food, and punch your dog in the face. And so there's where the self-policing may come in, where some other Flat Earthers, and I've seen it happen, make a video saying, Mr. or Miss So-and-so, you can't say that about this other person. You're wrong, and here's why. But policing what other people do on their own channels and how they do their own videos, what they talk about, I don't think that's good. Because we all have to be able to express the freedom that we have. We're not allowed this freedom by others. We were born with this freedom.
Yeah.
Did you find... Sorry, you go first, Antonio.
I was just going to say, what I've noticed is that there are people out there who, I won't say any names, but who believe that they deserve something. And if they don't have this something, in England we have an expression, they spit the dummy out. It's referring to a baby who's angry and just spits a dummy out to start screaming.
We call the dummy a pacifier here in the U.S. So I've seen people write, "You've spit your dummy out and thrown your toys out of the pram." Americanized, it would be, "You've spit your pacifier out and thrown your toys out of the baby bed," or crib. I think we call it. Yeah.
So where I'm going with this is that so we've found ourselves having lived on a globe until the point we realized that all of that was a construct. Having realized that construct had all kinds of elements associated with the construct and the things that the construct imposed, like status, superiority, authority, things we've discussed about, we've discussed in the past. But the idea or the notion that this is somehow, because we've all realized that we're not on a globe, to assume that this means we're all kind of employed, and I'm not talking about the whole shield nonsense, that this is like a school or a job where you are forced to spend time with people you might not want to. That's a mistake. We don't have to spend time with some people who say, "I'm going to come and play your game." Excuse my French, but, well, I won't say it. You know what you can do, No, We don't have to put up with people that we don't want to put up with. It's the freedom that we have. They have the freedom to, make abusive videos. We have the freedom to say, see you later, I'm not entertaining you.
I mean, this links nicely actually into the point I was going to make, Antonio, which is about the entertainment of YouTube and videos. The way I started the show off by talking about the Flat Earth Mixer was for a very pertinent point, which is that when you're in the presence of another human being, you don't just see them and hear them. You literally experience all five senses to some degree or another. You can taste the person in the air in a very literal way, as much as some people might cringe at me saying that, but it's true. You get a very different sensation from actually being in the presence of somebody else, and often people will be far more civil, polite, disciplined, and good-natured when you're face to face, whereas in an environment where we have the ability to be completely anonymous or semi-anonymous in some cases, it does tend to relax people's inhibitions in terms of their behaviour. And that was going to lead me on to the question I was going to ask Patricia, which was, did you find that when you were at the mixer and you were literally interacting with people?
All of the people that came to my mixer were not well-known video makers. Most of them didn't make videos at all. And I hadn't seen a lot of their faces. Some of them were Facebook friends, and flat earthers, of course, and a few of them made videos, but on topics of religion. That would be their main, where they came from, and that's how they fell into the flat earth world. So I hadn't tasted their essence physically ever before, nor had I even seen them on videos in order to do that. But after being around everyone and shaking people's hand and putting my arm around people for photos, it was such a great feeling that I felt, this is crazy. These are my people. I finally met my tribe. And even if we're completely different, and prior to Flat Earth, if there was a group party, a giant party of just people, and some of these people were there, potentially we never would have grouped off and started chatting because of what? Age differences, social differences, physical differences, the way we grew up, the way we speak, what we're into. We may never have met, but the flat Earth is literally underneath us all, and it's brought us together. And the conversations went from flat Earth to many other conspiracies, to people talking about their children, to favorite foods, and it was so life affirming to have this meeting of flat earthers and literally touching another flat earther and realizing that, yeah, we're different, we're totally different. But it was, I don't know, you felt like the sun was shining on you, and, choir of angels singing in the sky with some rays coming down on you, like in a movie or something. It was, and then it wore off, that initial feeling, and then everyone just felt really comfortable. And people were connecting afterwards, sharing phone numbers, and it just was great. So it is different. People, the old keyboard warriors, people behind their computer screen can go on and do trolling to each other, or even if they're not trolling, they're fellow video makers making videos, making fun of other people. I have a feeling if any of those people actually met myself or others face to face who are not liking myself or others, their guard would be, they would be disarmed by the happiness that moment would bring to them, and to see that we're real people, real flawed people. We are equal to them. We're the same. We're after the same thing. Our goals are the same. But we can still be different.
It reminds me of a comment which was, there's no such thing as a grumpy old man. In other words, you tend to find that grumpy children and grumpy teenagers and grumpy adults become grumpy old men. In other words, some people are just grumpy, some people are just miserable, some people are just unhappy, and they just like to project that onto the nearest victim. The good thing about Flat Earth is that it doesn't trample on anyone's grave. It's not like 9/11 in the respect that you're not programmed from birth that 9/11 was this or that or the other. It's just something you may find out about, and undoubtedly found about it through the conspiracy, realm. But with Flat Earth, you're literally programmed to ridicule the idea, the notion, and totally buy and accept the globe belief from birth. Therefore, miserable people find it very easy to latch on to flat earthers and ridicule them and poke at their potential to earn money. And actually, I was going to bring this up to perhaps later, but I'll bring it up now, which was a point about Jeren. And Jeren's backstory is fascinating, but
Jerenism. Sorry.
Yeah, Jeren
from Jerenism.
Correct, Jeren from Jerenism. So his backstory in computers and tech in general, specifically Bitcoin. I think he was an editor for somebody who did pieces on electronic currency. So he's very, very well versed in that subject. Now, if Jeren was to make videos specifically about that subject, he would undoubtedly have 10 times the number of subscribers. I've heard some of the work he did while he was in that field, and he's excellent. Now, the fact that he does flat Earth is in some way a massive hindrance to his ability to make at least YouTube money, because he could be, not raking it in, I'm sure nobody does on YouTube, but making considerably more money by just talking about Bitcoin. But he chooses not to because it's an absolute revelation. Nobody's doing it to be popular. Quite the contrary. Jeren, especially, is a good example, could be a lot more popular if he just talked about that tech rather than flat Earth. But he chooses. Sorry, you go ahead, Antonio.
It's the same with Mark Sargent. Now, I'll just disagree with you there when you say becoming wealthy from YouTube. You don't think so. I know somebody who watches. My sister has a 10-year-old daughter, and she watches this guy called Dan TDM, who plays Minecraft every day. He puts 1 or 2 half-hour videos of him playing Minecraft, commentating on what he's doing. He has over 1 million subscribers, and the views on his videos are 250,000. Some of them have 6 million views. That guy is making a lot of money. Now, if Mark Sargent wanted to do something similar, it doesn't have to be Minecraft, and it doesn't have to be playing a video game. He could do anything associated with the whole video game world, and he would have a hell of a lot more viewers. And the same with Patricia, with beauty products. Patricia, over to you.
I know that if I wanted to make money on YouTube, that because I've looked at all sorts of things on YouTube, just glancing around as we all do, there are a number of women of all ages, young and old, who do makeup tutorial videos. They do fashion videos. They give their advice. Some are experienced with degrees and some are not. And there is a market for older women and makeup tutorials and fashion advice. And I've watched some of those videos and got some makeup tips, and it was enjoyable. I'm not subscribed to any of those channels, but you know what? I could, if I wanted to, easily, with the same setup I've got here with the microphone and the MacBook Pro computer, easily start doing makeup tutorials and fashion advice for women 50 plus, because I'm 53 and I could make money because the amount of subscribers some of these women have is incredible, and they're doing nothing more than saying, this product, and they get sent free products. They actually end up being approached by beauty product manufacturers to have their own line of products to which they get a cut of the money. And some of these women seem to be quite nice people. You see their family on the videos sometimes, or their boyfriends or husbands or girlfriends in some cases. I could easily do that if I wanted to be popular on YouTube and make money. Everyone wants to be popular, even in the flat earth world. Some will say, oh, I'm doing this. It's not a popularity contest. I'm making videos. But in every human being's heart, forget YouTube, everyone wants to be liked and appreciated. It's a part of being a human being. I have cats. My cats want my attention. They want to be, in their own cat minds, liked and appreciated. So it's not a bad thing to want to be liked and appreciated. So somebody who wishes they had more views, wishes they had more thumbs up on their videos, be they in flat earth or not, that's a common thing. But,
yeah, I mean, that's true, but I feel that with the choice of subject, yes, we could do videos that would make us far more popular, but it's compelling. And on the whole, people who reject flat earth, or there's too much cognitive dissonance, it feels like they are, and this may sound condescending to so many, but on a different level in a very literal way. So the connection that we have in a social way to people who just get it and see the lies, understand the globe lie, and I use that term deliberately because the globe lie does encompass quite a few more people, even if they won't necessarily admit to it or pin their affirmation flag to flat Earth. The globe lie is something that you have to kind of widen your eyes to a lot of other lies, and it takes being of a certain, I can sound like a hippie now, but being of a certain consciousness in order to do that. And it just feels like we have this connection. I know we've talked on previous shows, Antonio and I, and perhaps you did with Bob as well, Patricia, on the last show, talk about the collective unconscious and the way ideas come to us. Well, that's part of the social aspect of it, and wanting to keep the subject matter on, be it Nefsa lies if you're Jaren, or whatever, flat Earth proofs if that's what you do, or in your case, Patricia, doing the connecting of all of those dots together to make a bigger picture that people can see.
It's the way I see it, Patricia, and this is not to lay flowers at your feet.
I'll take them.
If the flat Earth community, let's call it that, or just flat earthers in general, in this phenomenon, if you were not here, if you were not playing the role that you're playing in this phenomenon would be very, very different to how it is. It would be the friendliness that this phenomenon has would be missing. There would be elements to it. Some people like Bob or David Wise or Mark or even Eric Dubay, everybody who has their people who enjoy watching them, but there's this, you play this role, which is a huge contribution. I can't see the chat right now, but I'm sure a lot of the people watching, who are obviously watching partly because you're here, they will, I'm sure, agree with me. If you were absent from the Flat Earth movement, the Flat Earth movement would be massively different. It would be poorer for it.
Thanks.
And there are people out there for whom it wouldn't be that much poorer. I myself, if I wasn't in this movement, it wouldn't be that much poorer. But your role, it's almost as if Eric Dubay wasn't in this movement, hadn't done what he'd done, it would be a poorer movement. And the same with Mark, and the same with Jaren, Jarenism and Globebusters and many of the others. But in terms of the interaction that you have with all these people, minus the one who won't come on your show, it's integral to it. It's almost like you're like the heart of it. So, and there go the flowers.
Thank you. If in Flat Earth let's just say there's beautiful towns, wonderful, fascinating towns, but they're all apart from each other in different areas. And you hear about these wonderful towns. You don't know everything about these wonderful towns. In order to get to these wonderful towns, you need a bridge. So I decided to be the bridge between these wonderful towns. And the wonderful towns are the different people. And I'm just the bridge so that everyone can get to those towns and experience every single thing about. Now, anyone can go if I disappeared tomorrow or didn't even exist in the first place. We all would have met Nathan and Antonio and everybody that's been on my show. But you might not know little facts about them. They would maybe come out over time, but you might not have met them in that way that I try to present what I do. It doesn't make me important for proofs, of course, of Flat Earth, but I just want to do. I'm doing what I can do. I'm doing what I want to do. Not even that. I'm doing what I'm compelled to do. It's not even a want anymore.
I was going to say, you summed it up quite nicely when you said that we are thrust into an arena with people that we may not necessarily be scrambling to be part of their lives in any other social situation. So suddenly, and I'm going to use Jeff Stewart, I'm sure he won't mind me using him as an example, because he knows full well that he intentionally rubs people up the wrong way, and he knows he's doing it. But some people find that extremely grating and irritating, and Jeff will just laugh that off. Now, I'm not criticising Jeff and his methods, because I like Jeff, and I will watch his videos, and he does have great Flat Earth proof. His background has provided that. And because of, again, Flat Earth, I've been linked to this person that I'd never have ever been connected to in any way, shape or form if it wasn't for Flat Earth. And I love that, the fact that I can rub shoulders with someone like Jeff, who ordinarily, I just can't see how our paths would ever cross if it wasn't for Flat Earth. And I'm sure that that's true for you in 100 different ways that are positive, like with me and Jeff Stewart. Maybe you're not quite the same with Jeff, I don't know, I won't grill you for your feelings, we're not going to get into knocking Jeff here. But I was going to bring it on to the polar opposite of that, which is you get people that, for whatever reason, they've never met you. And we're focusing this intentionally on Patricia. If anybody's watching this thinking, oh no, are you putting in a corner? We have discussed this at length. But you get people who will comment in a vile, disgusting way and hate you, literally hate you, for no reason. And these are flat earthers. Where do you think lines should be drawn in terms of people's behaviour, anonymous or not?
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody should behave horribly to another human being, ever. But I can't draw any lines for anybody. They have to draw their own lines. And so you can judge these particular people who do that by what they think is acceptable to do. So when you see people acting, as you said, vile toward another human being, not just me, anyone, automatically you know what that person's all about. You know what kind of person they are. So if somebody wants to present themselves as being, let's just say, not that nice, not that thoughtful, maybe even not that intelligent, by lashing out at other people who they don't really know, who are only doing the best they can to try to help, then you know exactly what kind of person that is, and it's not somebody that I want to hang out with.
I mean, Antonio touched on this earlier when he was talking about people's expectations, and I think again, it's Flat Earth gives you a certain sense of self-importance because you do have your eyes open to a lot of lies, but self-importance doesn't necessarily mean that you have any entitlement to anything. Just because you realise your own ability doesn't mean that you're suddenly going to get a Ferrari or get a massively successful YouTube channel or anything for that matter. It's about oneself as opposed to what suddenly the earth will give you just because you've had this realization. I mean, maybe that's something you want to talk to, Antonio.
Yes. First, I will just say Audi R8. So
not a Ferrari.
The intention out there.
Yes. So yes. Me, from my standpoint, I can't understand. I really can't understand how somebody could have the scales fall from their eyes to the point that they realize we're on a flat world, and not have the same scales fall from their eyes to realize that hating someone is the most negative thing you can do to yourself. It doesn't. How can this be? I really don't. I don't understand it. As far as the ego-driven people who not so much send out hate, that's they might do that, but the way they comport themselves, expecting or demanding, again, it's the same thing. How can the scales not have fallen from their eyes in that respect? How is it that anybody can assume that they have more importance than they actually do, or demand more importance? It's like, no, we all have. This is the crux of the whole flat Earth world. We all have an inherent importance. That importance is infinite, and you can play with it, you can hone it, you can direct it, or you can muddy it, dirty it, corrupt it, distort it. It's all in how you deal with yourself. Now, I see that every single other globalist out there has the same importance. They're just kind of cut off from a point of realization about their own importance, so they attach it to status, to possessions, to the partner, to things, some things which are valid. For instance, the family. They derive a sense of importance from the family. Some derive a sense of importance from their job. Everybody strives to find a sense of importance, a sense of value. If and this is partly the reason I think they still prolong the globe, because the truth is the globe is dead. I bring up this analogy. It's not actually an analogy, but it works as a metaphor. El Cid. There was a famous film in the 1950s called El Cid with Charlton Heston, and it's a famous story. It's a legend, but it's actually historical. It's not like King Arthur, where it might be more mythical legend than historical. And this was a Christian fighter, a Christian leader who helped fight the Moors. Well, he actually helped stop the Moors from invading the north of Spain. He was killed in a battle. He was actually wounded in a battle and died later on. But because he was such an influential leader, the advisors around him realized that if they announced that this warrior leader had died, the morale would drop massively and they would lose. So what they did was they propped him on his horse with a wooden frame inside his armor, propped him holding his hand out with his lance tied to his fist, and marched him out in his war horse. And everybody saw that their leader, who had been so grievously wounded, was now back in fighting form. And they rallied and won. Now, this is what's being done with the globe. The globe world is behaving as if the globe is still alive. It isn't. We've killed it. We know it's no longer something that is true. It never was. Now, either the Mandela effect has kicked in, and it was true, and now there's been some shift where suddenly it's no longer true to some of us, or it never was true to begin with, and some of us have realized this. All new truths go through this stage of being known by first one person, then two, and this exponential growth that happens. So with this demanding and assuming that you have more importance, like, no, you have an infinite amount of importance. Don't look for others to validate that importance. That's a clue.
Yes, it is.
Damn. But yes, so what I'm, to conclude my point, everybody is immensely important, and you either thinking that you are does not mean that you're egotistical, full of yourself, or anything. It just means that you've realized this. You've realized that you're important by virtue of being a human being who is alive. You know, we know that there are important historical figures who are no longer alive. We know that they're important. We don't know about all the other people who are anonymous who died, but they all had their importance. It's an integral part of being a human being. So when people think that they will derive more importance by an action or by being acknowledged from others, that's a mistake. You can use, Patricia, you're using your importance, you're using yourself to include other people. Now, in the actual terminology of the word import and importance, that's exactly what you're doing. You are importing into the Flat Earth movement connections between people. You've interviewed people that I didn't know about, and after you've interviewed them, I've gone and looked and thought, wow, brilliant. And I'm thankful that they were in your show. So you're bringing important. Your role is literally important. That's what you do. You import into the FE. And Globebusters does the same with the clues, with the observations, with the sharp thinking that Bob and Jaron and we all have a way of bringing something to it. Bringing something to it literally means importing. That's what it means. You know, we use these terminology like bring something to it. Like, so people demand that you bring clues. You can say, no, you can demand what you want. Carry on demanding for as long as you want. But I just wish that people would find a source of happiness that they can fill their heart with, and then carry that into their lives. That's my view.
We have to get away from globe Earth thinking. The globe is dead, like El Cid, propped up on the horse, and instead of a lance taped to his hand and his armor, we've got a NASA rocket at this point. But we all know the globe is dead. And if we move away from globe Earth thinking, we'll move away from this demands people have to be important they will then realize they already have been important all this time. That the glober thinking has made them feel unimportant. But now we know we're all the same. The flat earth is the great leveler, literally. There are people on YouTube in the flat earth world who have a small channel who have 3 subscribers. All of us here had a small channel with 3 subscribers. Even Eric Dubé at one point, who has a massive channel now, had at one point 3 subscribers. He got those subscribers by putting out things that he found to be important, that he wanted people to see. They were reflections of who he is and what his belief system is. There are other people in Flat Earth who are doing things like that, but they're not also slamming other people. And you can see what's important to them by what's on their channel. Instead of making videos, as some people do, screaming like a baby in a crib with soiled diapers, look at me, look at me, look at me, I'm good, I'm important, you guys aren't paying attention. Just continue growing your own channel by putting out what's in your heart out, which is your work. What could it be? You talking about God and the dome. You talking about the sunsets. You talking about rainbows. That's what will grow your channel. Not talking about, no one's paying attention to me, I'm better than these other people. And that kind of crying and screaming, actually literally flinging what's inside your diaper at the wall. What you do when you do that is you're cutting yourself off from your own potential, and you're keeping yourself, even if you're a flat earther, in globe earth thinking. And the globe's dead. So it's so easy. It's so easy.
You summed it up nicely when you said work, because a lot of people will, again, this differentiation between self-importance and realization and actual work, actually putting in some effort and doing stuff. And this, again, comes back to there's plenty of other topics that would make you far more popular with a lot less work and effort put into videography in the case of YouTube. So it's a passion that's driving people, and that passion is ultimately what people will see and think nefarious thoughts, think you must be a shill, think you must have some back motive, and they'll boil it down to this very limited, very small corner of the internet called Flat Earth, and say, well, you're more popular than this guy, therefore you must be a shill, or you're more popular than that guy, or these people are the most popular. You know, there was one, I'm going to have to mention his name, but Validation Boy labelled people as top brass. And you go top brass, I think Eric Dubé's got something like 35, 40,000 subscribers, Jaren about the same. It's an absolute drop in the ocean. You've got people out there that are doing makeup tutorials with millions of subscribers. We're not. There's no top brass in YouTube terms.
Yeah. This brings me to something I thought earlier, which is this leader. Let's find a leader. Who's the leader? Who can we declare the leader? And it's popularity doesn't make a leader. So being the most popular, if popularity made leaders, then Eric Dubé would be leader. But obviously he's not. He's the leader to the people who consider him the leader. But that's all to do with consideration and opinion and all various different things, which would be 100% valid to the people who hold those opinions. I'm glad that there isn't a leader, because if there was, then all that, the powers that be, these nefarious characters would have to do is just off them. There you go. No more leader. Now who's going to offer to become leader now and be offed? Nah, it's not going to work. So, and also, if we consider popularity to be reflective of leader, then how many people in the UK think that David Cameron is popular, and how many people in the US think that Obama is popular, or Hillary Clinton, or Donald Trump? Are they more popular than the Kardashians? Does that mean that the Kardashians, by virtue of being more popular, are the leaders of the United States? No, it doesn't work like that. So I'm glad that the leadership situation is not something that we actually have to resolve. It's a nonsense, is what it is. It's globe thinking. It goes back to what you were saying earlier, Patricia. The globe the world we lived in before with the globe had all kinds of entanglements, psychological entanglements, to do with being a human being spinning through space on this globe. There was the lack of the loss of a creator consciousness, a consciousness of a creator. That's gone. There were people who were Christian and had other faiths who still had this creator consciousness, but the vast majority didn't. The vast majority of the world was atheist. When it gets to the point that the flat earth is the predominant view in the world, then the predominant view will be that there is a conscious creator who could very well be observing. This is what I think scares many globalists away. They like to have their dark secret thoughts that nobody will ever know, and feel comfort in the idea that nobody will ever know. And when you say to them, look, dude, the world is flat, they quickly think, oh, shit. Ooh, sorry. Oh, dear. If it's flat, there's a creator. If there's a creator, he's been hearing my horrible thoughts. So they shy away from it. So, but yes, the entanglements from the globe thinking that some of us still have. Obviously, we've just been discussing various people who still have these entanglements, this ego entanglement, this importance entanglement, this declaring all of this. These are entanglements from the globe world. We have entanglements in terms of and entanglements that still exist in us. We've not detected them all, so we've not been able to divorce ourselves from those entanglements. They still.
Can I address one, Antonio?
Yes.
Just because it's none of the above, which is to say, it's not an emotional one, or it's a literal one, which was the entanglement with the heliocentric tendency to use the stars, the planets, wandering stars, as proof of their model or proof of the spherical nature of the Earth. And in flat Earth terms, once you divorce yourself from heliocentrism, if that's a word, you then find yourself looking for the equivalent proof to make the Earth flat, and you don't need to look up at the stars to realise it's flat. You've got, again, back to Jeff Stewart. God, you're getting 2 mentions, mate. He's got, targeting ships with, I forgot the name of the targeting system. He mentioned it about 100 times in the show. I think it was Aegis. But he's targeting ships at the waterline at 100 miles plus. Therefore, the water's flat. Now, flat water, flat Earth. Well, not necessarily. There's topography. There's the land rises. It's some of it's above sea level. But you've got plane surveyors referencing it in terms of sea level when they're making their very flat measurements for whatever railway lines, if you want to use that as an example, to boost validation point, because he kind of had that point, which is to say you don't need to have 1,000,001 equivalent heliocentric, equivalent to the heliocentric proofs in flat Earth. That's just an old-fashioned entanglement we have with the way they fed us complicated, non-stop lies on top of lies on top of lies, and you sort of have to disentangle yourself from that way of thinking and go, well, what can I just observe? What can I just see? Yeah, it's great if you're someone like Jeff and you can target ships at the waterline at 100 miles, but in terms of what you can just go out and see, it's a nice simple one at the beach. You've got the water rising to your eye level instead of falling away as it should on a globe. It's a nice simple thing to just go out and have a look yourself, but that's back to self-realization, and that gives you a feel of self-importance, but that doesn't mean that you're owed anything. It's back to how much work you do. And in the case of Patricia, she does a lot. You do a lot of work. Sorry, talking in third person. You do a huge amount of work, and that spreads flat Earth information. If anybody ever knocks you for not having flat Earth proof, you interviewed Brian Mullen. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Quite a while ago, actually.
I don't know how the people who criticize you for not bringing proof, on the back of what Nathan just said, Brian Mullen is bringing stuff. They're serious, like really serious stuff that can't just be ignored by the world of academia. So you brought him. He was making his videos, and I'm sure he didn't think, hey, Patricia, why don't you interview me? I'm sure you found his videos and thought, wow, this guy.
He didn't approach me,
no.
And he didn't make videos demanding that I interview him.
No, of course
not. Brian Mullen has never made a video disparaging other people in flat Earth, nor even a comment.
So this is what I was going to say. Now, how do the people out there who say that, this is, you don't bring anything like earth-shattering, globe-shattering. You do, first of all, Brian Mullen and others, but it's almost as if they don't stop to think about how you got to find a Flat Earth Hub or Brian Mullen or any of the other people. Nobody contacted you and said, hey, interview me. You're dedicated to this. You're looking around, you're seeing things, and you're then engaging with these people and interviewing them. It's not falling on your lap. It's all the result of effort that you're putting into it. Now, I know you put the effort into it because you love putting the effort into it. It's a critical subject, and to not discuss it, to not bring attention to it, to not help in some way. There are people out there who help merely by making comments,
Yes.
And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I urge as many people out there who are not currently making videos to maybe start making videos. It's not as hard as you might think if you haven't started already.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you there, Antonio.
Yeah.
There was I think it was Jason Campbell, and he said, God, I wish I had still had the effort to make, or could summon the effort. The comment's not up now. It was about 20 minutes ago that he made the comment. And I thought, shall I interject and say, just make one, just find a white wall and hold your camera selfie mode. Just make sure you hold it that way round and not that way round.
Yes.
But it's pretty simple to make a video in the modern times now with a camera phone. I mean, this is something in everybody's back pocket. It's dead easy. And somebody dropped a comment. I wish I could give him credit. And he just said, hi, I've got 6 subscribers. I've made my first video. And
Brilliant.
just the comment, you could detect it in the comment. He's so pleased that he's got his feelings out there. And there is something very cathartic about making a flat Earth video. And, I'm not suggesting, look, everybody should go out and declare to the world, look, I found flat Earth. Because I'm sure John Le Bon pointed out those videos are the ones that he found when he was searching for new flat Earth videos. And they can be a bit tedious. But it's not to put down the point or to diminish the point that to say this is what I've seen with my own eyes is a very empowering thing. And Patricia has had that little adrenaline rush going through her blood for about the last 18 months or so, and it's non-stop. But some people won't. They'll just make 1 or 2 videos, and then a month will go by and it's only had a few viewings, and they think, oh, wow, my video's really good. I've got a really good point. Why hasn't it had 100 views? And it's kind of, ignore that. Just make another one, and hopefully that one will have 100 views. And then if it doesn't make another one, don't get addicted to the videography element of it.
Yes, consistency. Yeah. And if you want more viewers, what you can do, if you've got a video, you don't have many subscribers, copy the share link and go to somebody like me or Nathan or Patricia or anybody else, go to any of their videos, make a comment, say, hey, I've made this video, what do you think? I saw a video today, in fact, that somebody has just made. It's a song. It's like a techno house type song.
I know the song. I got that link as well.
Yeah, so pass your link. Don't be shy,
Put it on your Facebook as well, if you've got Facebook.
If you have Facebook, share it on your Facebook. If you don't want a lot of your friends to criticize you, call you a retard and all of these things, then maybe don't put it on Facebook. But
and David Weiss needs a plug here, actually, because we often chat, us here and others, and David Weiss is often in the conversation.
When we're Nathan,
while we're doing. Sorry, go on, Antonio.
I was going to say, are you referring to the times when we're plotting? We're plotting who we're going to exclude. We're plotting how we're going to make a fortune. Are those the times?
People will take you literally, Antonio. No, we don't plot. No,
it's a joke.
Let me get my point in, which is that while we're chatting, literally, David will have one ear. Sort of, he'll be looking over here or something, and nodding and joining in the conversation, and then 4 minutes later he'll go done and publishing, and we'll have a video on the Skype feed. Yeah, it's so simple. I mean, I've just started using iMovie because it's been raining the last few days, and I did an ad for this very show, and the amount of positive comments, I did it through laziness.
I loved it.
Well, this is it. Loads of people gave me loads of, and I was sitting here in a nightgown doing it because I didn't want to go out and find somewhere nice to film. And I got the idea from Jaren. So Jaren had pointed out in one of his videos, Jaren from Jarenism, had pointed out in one of his videos that somebody had said, oh, it looks so slick and professional and you must be funded and shill. And so he did I don't know how he did this bit, but he did a screen capture of the front of an iPhone and showed how you use iMovie to rattle off a movie, and it takes no time at all. It's dead easy, and I can testify that people think it's fantastic. Forget 5 takes out with traffic going past and swearing and cursing as the phone falls off the bush you've got it propped in. All that effort, forget it. Just grab your iPhone. You can make it. You don't need to use your own face. You can just swipe footage from this and that, and bosh, you've got a video in 10 minutes flat. And that can be your video if you don't want to put your face out there. My point is that the technology is so simple to use. It really is. And making it is no effort. To do something simple and just talk takes no time at all. Publishing it on YouTube, again, is simply easy to do.
Hey, can I just give a shout out to TDR, who sent me a message today saying that he's been doing a survey on blood type. Anybody who out there who knows their blood type, if you would write what your blood type is, or mainly the rhesus aspect, whether you're rhesus positive or negative, he's come to some interesting findings. So if you would, then that would be great. I'm not sure if TDR is in the chat, but it would be it would help him. And it's just interesting. Going back to what you're saying about making videos really fast, I hate David Weiss. I hate him with a passion. I don't. I'm kidding. I love the guy. But it's true. We've sat there having a chat, and he says so. He contributes to the chat. He says something, and then we all carry on chatting, and he's quiet for a few minutes, and then those few minutes, and it literally is few minutes, maybe 15 minutes less, and he says, "There, done, uploading." It's like, what? He's just made a video whilst we were chatting. It takes me forever. Not the talking head videos, those are easy, but anything that I've had to edit, it takes me forever. That's me, and that's probably because I'm a bit dumb. But yeah, a lot of the people who produce material for YouTube, some of them do it very easily, some of them take a long time. All of them, anybody who's doing anything, even all the haters, they should be at least applauded for having done something.
I agree.
It'd be better if they weren't applauded for being haters, but everybody who's out there who wishes that they either had the courage to or the know-how. The courage, you don't need it. You're a flat earther. You don't need the courage. And the know-how is easier than you think. Don't be put off by me saying it takes me forever. That's just me, and that is just because I'm a bit dim. So you're probably not as dim, and it takes you less time to figure out and less time to produce.
You know how you mentioned a few moments ago, Nathan, that there's a certain person who's not a flat earther who mentioned that he came across lots of videos with flat earthers kind of coming out of the closet and proclaiming that they found the earth was flat, and that person found that to be a bit tedious. I don't see that as tedious. I see it like this. I don't have children, but I'm going to go from the perspective of being around children all my life and loving children as well as we all do. When you have a child, and your child comes up to you, and I'm just going to make this up off the top of my head, and says, I'll use you guys as your examples, Daddy, this is green, this is green. You don't think, what an idiot, I already knew that. You think, how amazing it is that they discovered that this is green, and how their life is now changing, and they know a color. And that's the same thing when flat earthers, brand new, come out of the closet and say, basically, everyone, I know the earth is flat. Why would we say that was bad or boring or tedious? Because we were all there once, and now they are on the path to discovering all the other colors that we've got going on here on the flat earth.
That's just Nathan and his exacting ways. No, it was somebody else
who said that, not Nathan. He was just talking about this other person who I won't name, but Nathan already named him. But anyway.
Yeah. So something else I've been thinking. Okay, so Brian Mullen, his video is in love. That's brilliant.
Yes.
Okay, so.
Wait, for those who didn't see this video, Brian Mullen came out recently with a video in which he didn't name the person, but it looked like he was on a mountaintop, and he'd gone on an actual quest, very romantic, and had met this woman who he'd been conversing with, I guess maybe by Skype or letters. Imagine letters with sealing wax. And basically, that's what you get the picture in your mind. Probably was texting and FaceTime and Skype, but still, I'll go with letters on parchment. But anyway, they corresponded enough, and they met, and she had been encouraging him to come and see her, and he did. And he did this video, simple video. I mean, it was not flat earth proofs. There was no fancy graphics. It was just him standing in nature, talking about life and love and what's important to him and how he's going to go, basically come down from this mountain and go to her. And it made me cry. In fact, I feel like I'm going to cry even talking about it now.
It was so touching.
It was lovely. So yeah. I wanted to bring in...
To know who he's in love with? Yeah, we all do.
Exactly, just that. If anybody knows, please put it in the chat. By the way, to anybody in the chat that corresponds with me or that I'd normally say hi to, hi. Sorry, I can't say...
Hello to everyone in chat.
Yeah. So I'm not sure, I don't know how many people out there are single. I'm single. I'm very happy. And I wouldn't... I've discussed this with other people. The idea of having a relationship or dating somebody who is not a flat earther, to me, I don't know how that I couldn't do it. You know, there's
so a couple of disclaimers here, Antonio, before you go on. Number one, my wife's not a flat earther. Number two, Brian Mullen is not a flat earther. But Brian Mullen, I hold that thought because it's an interesting one with Brian Mullen, because Brian Mullen is a nice example of flat Earth versus Earth being flat. So Brian Mullen is investigating the Earth being flat, although he is now boiling it out into far more fundamental things, a lot like Bob from Globebusters. But he is expressed on his videos how he has had to toy with the idea of whether to get into flat Earth, which is a different thing, you know. To enter into this social environment of flat Earth is different to just investigating the shape of the Earth or debunking the globe or looking at whether or not it's flat. And, you know, we've talked about Jeff 3 times now with his targeting ships at the waterline. But flat Earth, flat water, or as the channel name has now got that flat water, flat Earth, it rings very true.
And also, Brian Mullen is flat Earth friendly, if that makes sense. He's not anti-flat Earth, so he's kind of like Rob Skiba's very flat Earth friendly, and on a different level. He's a little more actually flat Earth than Brian Mullen. But being involved in a relationship for me as a single woman, I'm single for many reasons. One of them is because prior to flat Earth and continuing now, I'm vegan, and before that vegetarian, and I'm I think I'm totally normal, but I have a lot of ways I think and believe about natural health and the way other people should behave toward each other and my love for animals. All of these made me an oddball in some ways way before Flat Earth came along. Then Flat Earth came along, and I've marginalized myself to the point where finding a suitable partner for love, which I really dearly want, is become quite small, like to the point where it's microscopic, especially if you become an older woman. Then you're less marketable in the society in which we live. But that's globe Earth thinking. So within the flat Earth, there are many people like you, Nathan, who have a loving primary relationship, a baby on the way, and I know you've made that public already, so I don't feel bad saying it. But your wife is not a flat earther. But you already had that relationship established and the love was there when you got into flat Earth. But I'm talking about now, like for those of us who are single, going into the world and attempting to meet someone. If somebody introduces you, or you go to a dating site, or you stumble upon somebody in a grocery store, if they weren't those things that I am, it would be I couldn't. So I know I'm cutting myself off.
There's an interesting interaction that you have that gets discussed quite frequently, which is your interaction with another single flat earther, Mark Sargent. And this will get picked apart. And Sasha and I were discussing this the other night, the way that, you know, two single people, if you have interactions, and I'm trying to lead this back into what we started with, Antonio, I'll get back to you, we'll get there. But it'll be looked at, and I don't know if sexualized is the right word.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, it's something that I'm hoping you can address, so that people can look at it from a non-flat Earth, a normal, just the social standards we should all have anyway.
Yes.
Well,
Many have said Mark Sargent and I are actually really married. It's not true. And we're actually really a couple. Not true. And have encouraged us to become a couple. We love each other, but we don't love each other in that way. We have a really great chemistry in that sort of friendship way. And we both probably, although I've not really spoken to him about this, want the other person to find love. Well, I would imagine he would want me to find love. I don't know if that's what he wants out of life. I don't quite know, because everyone's individual and different. But we would be probably the first person to stand up and applaud if the other person announced they'd found love, in their life. But many people wish Mark and I would become a couple, and we are a couple in like our own way, and
in a professional way.
Yeah, it's a beautiful relationship. It has mutual respect and admiration. We help each other. We encourage each other. The old expression, we've got each other's back, that kind of thing. And finding even a friendship like that in the globe Earth thinking model is hard enough. And in flat Earth, you already have that common thing. I do want love, commitment. I want marriage even, old-fashioned as that may be. I don't have it because even prior to Flat Earth, as I mentioned, I was a bit different. And now Flat Earth's made me even more different. But I know that I don't want to try to teach somebody about the Flat Earth. I don't want to try to teach somebody about this. And then I've got the whole vegan element. I want to help others do that, but I kind of want somebody who's, maybe it sounds selfish. Maybe there's a new person right now waking up to Flat Earth. It would be the perfect partner to me. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just the guy right now who's saying, it's a globe, it's a globe. That person. That would be hard for me to have a relationship with.
Let me interrupt you, okay? I am thinking this. You are single. I am single. Sorry, I just had to do that. We wanted to do that since we started this chat.
It's a nice segue though, because I know one of the things. Actually, it's a nice one for two things, because you were talking about the dating element of Flat Earth.
I want to get to that. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those subjects. I know we're all itching to bring it on, but it also lends to something that's possibly in the future with things like the now. Actually, am I allowed to talk about this on air? We call it the Flat Earth Network that Mark and I came up with, and that it's going to be merging or something, or changing into something even larger than Mark and I have discussed. But we're not ready to talk about it yet because we don't have all the pieces in place. And when I do have all the pieces in place, I'm going to do something on my channel, and I don't want to say when, because I don't know, or who's all involved, because it's up in the air. But a component of that, I think I want to, what you're going for, Nathan, a component of it is going to be some level of meeting, a way to meet fellow flat earthers. Because we are cut off. Yeah, we could, you could message another flat earther, go to their channel, click the About page, and if they've got Google Plus, you can email them. But just imagine, get an email, I think you're cute. I mean, it would just be weird. There's got to be a better way, because we don't know if the other flat earthers are single, or if they, be they male or be they female. That's the dating aspect. But just meeting flat earth friends in your neighborhood, who knows? How do you know? You could have a neighbor who's a flat earther who doesn't make videos, so you don't know they exist. But I want to develop something through this. Let's just call it the Flat Earth Network until we figure out what the real name of it's going to be. It's just the network, we'll call it. It would be great just to find some kind of way in which flat earthers can meet friends. And then the friendship could go forward to dating if that's what it wants to do, or not.
Yeah, because just like you and I, Patricia, we get on really well, and we're friends. And in the same way that you can have a platonic relationship with a guy or a girl, so how you meet isn't really that important, which is the basis by which internet dating works. It's not really that important. But with internet dating, there's that element of dating. It's difficult to, I suppose, if you're on a website, in a dating website, to say to meet through a dating website and be just friends, that would be like the worst outcome. Whereas to meet through a website that is not specifically a dating website and be friends, that would be great. And to then go on to date and something develop, that would be awesome. And I think if we have something like that, like I don't know,
like flat earth networking.
Yeah, for something, an element like that where people either subscribe to the network or don't subscribe. I don't know how any of that would work, but if we have this element to it where people can find fellow flat earthers around them, I just think that would be really good.
Something that I want to kind of point out, which is something that we, literally us three and others that we mentioned earlier, have. And as a result of making videos, which is a very public thing, we have become friends. You saw the promo; it was all hearts and love, and that's not done in jest. I'll say it with a wry smile, but ultimately speaking, we often have conversations. And again, we chuckled about it earlier and said, "Oh, it's because we're plotting and deciding who we want to invite." Nonsense. We just chat and shoot the breeze. Nothing worthy of broadcast. 90% of it's just us chit-chatting, but that's social networking, and it's something we've acquired. Maybe you said earlier it doesn't take any confidence, Antonio, and that's something I possibly don't agree with. It does take a certain amount of confidence to put yourself in this position. But
what I meant was to think that you require courage. It's like, the confidence to put your face out there, yes, that takes that level of confidence. But if you take confidence in the fact that you are going to be, appreciated, even if it is.
I'm trying to address Patricia's point where she's saying that people who, if she's to approach a guy, sorry to put you in the third person again, Patricia, if she's to approach a guy and that guy is a globalist, and then suddenly it's not about, in base level looking each other up and down, it's debating the bloody globe, where it's nice to have something
not a good first date.
Exactly. It doesn't sound like much fun if you can ignore that, because there's a place potentially that has not even dating necessarily, but a place where you can network with other people, and you're shooting the breeze, and you're not going to end up in a debate about whether the Earth is a globe or not. And that's something that potentially the Flat Earth Network, or Flat Earth and Other Conspiracies Network, or Flat Earth Networking, or whatever it may be, is a way of taking out the venom and the anger and the horrible people that essentially are getting very angry about something that most people don't bat an eyelid about. Most people, you say, it's a globe, and they go, yeah, fair enough. And they're not going to get passionate and go, it's a globe, rah, rah, I'm so angry. It is what people say it is, which is what our haters do. And you kind of wrap your head around that and think, this is crazy. You don't go around shouting, I can't remember who gave me this example, but it was Chris Rock. He was saying you don't get people who say I love mustard going into the ketchup forums going, mustard is the best. It just doesn't happen. It's complete nonsense.
The Flat Earth Network will have an element of meet your fellow flat earthers. I've already come up with that idea. It's planned. It's going to happen, and it's not really a dating site. But you can use it as a dating site if that's what you're into. But you can also use it to meet like-minded people in your area. I don't know how I'm going to pull this off, but it's going to happen.
Well, Flat Earth Network's going to be defunct and forgotten about, but I bet that will get molded into a new thing, which is Flat Earth Networking.
Yes, exactly. But the thing that Mark and I wanted to do originally, and we were approached by a producer, it's still happening, and I've mentioned this before in my show. It's not backburnered or anything like that. It's in progress, behind the scenes, being worked on with websites and such, and I will present exactly what's going to happen with the people involved soon as I have all the info. So stand by.
On that name if you use it, Flat Earth Networking. That's mine.
That's good. I like it.
I've just had a little vision, okay, and it was this: me on a date with some stunning woman, because obviously she's going to be stunning, and it comes to a stage where you're chatting, you're eating, and she says, "Oh, have you seen that latest NASA footage?" And you'd be on tenterhooks, and then she says, "It looks so fake," I
Oh my
think
God.
that would be awesome. And then, okay, so, oh my God, and then you discover that she's a flat earther. It would be awesome. Now, the same situation where she says, have you seen that NASA footage? I'm thinking, oh, she says, isn't it amazing? It'd be like, oh, that's it, I'm finished, you know. Hey, where's the bill? So, yeah, I think it's just going to be lovely for people who are single to meet other people who are single, be it for a platonic or be it for not platonic, and for people who are not single to meet other
Yes.
people, you know?
Right. To have friends that you don't even have to talk about flat Earth when you meet. Just imagine that, because you know. And you don't have, there aren't those global ideas. Like if somebody, let's just say you've got this friend that you've met on the Flat Earth Network thing that we're putting together. And
Flat Earth networking.
Flat Earth Networking that Nathan's come up with. TM, trademark by Nathan. And you go somewhere and you just watch a movie. You don't have to talk about the space programming that you're watching. You just laugh at it because you're both on the same page. You won't have somebody saying, why are you laughing? All of these things that we face when somebody in a party starts talking about vaccinations, you're going to know that the person next to you, because most flat earthers are up on the same sorts of conspiracy things, give or take, with maybe slightly different variations, but we're all pretty aware of hoax events and false flags, and some people take those to extremes, and some of them, it's all this. We know, we kind of know the world we've been presented is not true. Each individual flat earther has a different belief on how far that goes, but just being with somebody who you're not going to constantly have to defend your belief system, or maybe be silent, which is even worse, be silent about your belief system. I mean, prior to being involved in flat earth, I had a relationship long term where the person was amazing in many areas, which is why we were in love, but they didn't share the same beliefs with me about this is just for me, okay, veganism and vaccines and natural health and animals in general. And it was very hard. And to add Flat Earth to the mix, if I knew him now, it would be completely impossible, because those are parts of your daily life. Those are things, they're everything, pretty much. Everything can be brought back to Flat Earth. You drive by a building and it says Global Enterprises on it. I mean, it's in your face everywhere. TV commercials, TV shows, even if you're away from the TV movies. It'd be nice to have people on the same page, and it's hard. They say that.
I agree with you, Patricia. It's one where I've got to give props here to Omni. I think he's renamed Omni Eros. Is that right?
Omni Eros, Michael.
He was not a flat earther. Correction. Yes. But he went to your Flat Earth mixer, and I assumed there was no blazing rows or him.
Everybody loved him.
Exactly, he's just a regular guy.
Nice guy, smart, quiet, gentle, intelligent. And Omni Eros, E-R-O-S, he lives in Houston. He lives quite close to where I live, and we just accidentally discovered that, and we became friends because I'm hungry for a friend in the world of, I don't like to call it conspiracy, but let's just use that word. He talks about conspiracies and is quite well aware of conspiracies, which is how he initially found a video of D. Murphy 25, and known as Allegedly Dave, and myself on my channel. Somebody sent it to him. Dave was talking about fruitarianism, veganism, health, the age-old practice of urine therapy, and somebody sent Omni Eros a clip of that and said, get a load of these conspiracy kooks. And that's how he discovered me and made fun of me, his first video. And I was sent it, and we kind of developed a rapport because I wasn't mad at him. No need to be mad. I tried to explain the flat earth to him and all that. Anyway, we became friends. Even if he's not a flat earther, he toyed with the idea. Because he's a regular person, but he understands other conspiracies. So he's one of those rare people who won't be screaming and yelling. I walked around and was socializing with everybody at my Flat Earth Mixer here in Houston on Flat Earth Day, April 22nd, our first one, 2016. And he was mixing and mingling with everybody. They were talking about other conspiracies. And there's a common bound. But, Omni is married to a man, but if he were a male and we were in a relationship, it would be a lot easier to make that relationship work than it would be somebody who believes everything mainstream media tells you is true. That would be almost impossible. Like my ex-boyfriend I spoke of earlier.
Patricia, are you saying that Omni Eros is gay?
Yes, he is.
Oh, oh, well, I've been liking his things, but I won't now that I've found out he's gay.
Yeah,
By
we
the
do
way,
have that. I know you're just joking.
yes, I love the guy. I find him freaking hilarious. I do. So, just for some people in the chat, I noticed earlier that some people were kind of confused and hurt when I did this. Patricia, you single, me single, ah? Okay, I'm joking. Like most of you guys, I wish. Okay, I love Patricia, but I wish. Okay, I'm not so stupid, you know. So, sorry, Patricia, sorry to put you on the spot. No, but I'm saying this because I wouldn't want rumors to start. You know, I
Why
was just
not? Let's have
playing.
rumors.
Yes,
Well, no,
I
but
was just playing.
the point that I kind of want to get out there is that there's people like Omni, and Omni, sometimes I like Omni's videos, sometimes I'll unsubscribe, and then you'll see one come up in the suggestions, presumably because they monitored what you've watched in the past, and you'll watch it and get one chuckle out of it, and I'll subscribe again. And in the chat at the moment, we've got Jesse Spots, and the same goes for Jesse Spots. Sometimes he'll put something out there, and I'll think, I don't want to fight with Jesse just because he's looking at this, and I'll unsubscribe, and then I'll subscribe again. And that's the way it should be. You know, if somebody's infuriating you for whatever reason, there's no need to engage. You can just go about your business and you don't have to watch. There's a million other flat earth videos if that's all you're into. And there's a million other videos, 2 million, maybe there's more than that, other videos on YouTube that you can go to and have a look at, rather than getting angry and leaving venomous comments about globes in flat earthers videos. Go and find something that makes you happy. Don't internalize your anger.
Yes, and you can externalize your anger, as some do, by making videos against other flat earthers if you're a flat earther, but I don't see what that does for you. Maybe it gets it off your chest, but I'd go outside in a field and scream. I think that'd be better, and then use your real productive energy to make fantastic videos on your channel about what it is you wish were out there. Some of the people you hate aren't doing.
It's
like
another
proofs
thing
or
that
whatever.
it's not necessarily part of the social element, but then again it is, which is, I mean, Sasha's a good example of this because her and I argue quite a lot. I'm sure Antonia will agree as well. You disagree on totally different topics that I disagree with her on, and she'll disagree with me, and vice versa. And it's all, sometimes it gets really heated. There's been times where we've got so passionate that tears have been flowing because of the stuff we're talking about in literal terms. But at the end of the conversation, none of us are falling out with each other and suddenly
you're not making a video.
Comments. I'm not going to make a video because of her views on simulation theory.
And at the end of the day, I always dry my tears, so it's okay,
Exactly. The same goes with Jesse. I will leave Jesse. I'm really sorry if you're watching this and you're like, what? But I will leave him some really horrible comments to his point, or disagreeing with him, and I'll put a lot of passion behind it. But it's not to say that I hate Jesse or hate Sasha if it's something about simulation theory that I just vehemently disagree with. It's not that suddenly I hate them. It's that we disagree with an individual point. And some people who disagree with the most fundamental point, globe versus flat Earth, there is no need to engage in pure venom and hatred just because you disagree on this point. It's just not necessary, or it doesn't seem necessary to me. Back to ketchup versus mustard.
I vote for mustard, by the way, in case anybody's wondering.
Yes.
Not a fan of.
What is wrong with you? You're evil. You should die.
No, mustard. Come on. It's yellow.
Exactly. I think, though, that part of the social aspects of flat Earth are that's a slight negative to bring the conversation down is there are people who are very hurt somehow. Their hurt comes from pain that was in their hearts long before they found the Earth was flat. Where does that pain come from? Maybe it was a childhood problem, an issue. No one's perfect. None of us have had perfect childhoods. Maybe it was something that happened when they got a little older. Maybe they had trouble relating to other people, or it was trouble with money or trouble with jobs. Something has wounded them. Maybe it was something really horrible that happened to them physically, some level of violence that was enacted upon them. Something happened to them. Then they come into flat Earth. They're a flat earther. At that point, they're still coming into it with that baggage. We've all got baggage. And they've got that chip on their shoulder to begin with. and they put out good material. But they see other people have more subscribers. They see other people maybe doing more hangouts. They see other people might be getting more attention from what they think are the quote-unquote top brass, or those in power, those leaders. When the reality of it is, there's no leaders. There's only people who are exhibiting leadership qualities. I am not a leader, but I do exhibit leadership qualities. I have that in me, and I always have. I think of things like Flat Earth Day. Let's do a Flat Earth mixer. I do it. Some other people do it. That's just a leadership quality. It doesn't make me a leader.
So you make that seem like I do Flat Earth Day. I do Flat Earth Mixer. Man, that's such a lot of work just in the advertising alone. If you just want to look at it from a YouTube little square box, you had, what was it, at least 3 or 4 promos for that event. You published it on Twitter, you published it on Facebook, you talked about it on your shows, you actually booked all of the event to actually happen in the first place, you tried to get RSVPs. There's this huge amount of work that went into these events, and this is the thing that people fail to realise. The same goes with just YouTube. There's a massive amount of work that people put in, and normally those are the people, not always, but normally those are the people that get the most out of it, in return. And the people who diversify tend to get popular quicker, and you're very good at that, Patricia. You've diversified, and you're itching to diversify further, and this is why it should be praised, it shouldn't be knocked. But people who don't see the same thing happening to them go, oh, poor me, poor me.
The poor me can turn into, because of maybe some sadness that they have, maybe at work they're not getting the attention they deserve, and they're a hard worker, but other people who may be louder or more annoying or kiss up to the boss, whatever the reason may be, are getting the good benefits, and they're not. They have this, they come into Flat Earth, and then in the Flat Earth world, they take that same chip on their shoulder and walk into Flat Earth, and they don't feel they're getting that attention. And what they do, instead of amp up what they're doing, focus on what they're doing, make what they're doing better, and diversify and build themselves up with that inner strength of knowing that they know the earth is flat and everybody is level, we're all equal. Instead, they point their finger at somebody and say, it's your fault. You're the one keeping me down. You're a leader. You're not paying attention to me. And when I see videos that are saying that to me, I'm not going to reach out to that person and bring them in. And I know I'm not some huge thing. It's only Flat Earth, right? Little corner of the internet. I'm not going to be warm toward a person who is saying horrible, disparaging things about me that aren't true to begin with and are only a function of what these people are viewing through their eyes of having a chip on their shoulder. I would like to help in some way, make them feel that they are equal, but I don't need to, because they are equal. They have amazing things to contribute, many more amazing things than I've contributed. I just encourage them to focus more on that as opposed to hating other people and blaming them for being leaders, not including you. You have to almost include yourself. It's like in school. If you had the answer to the question and then teacher said, who knows the answer to this question? If you're just shy and you hold your hand down, the teacher's not going to pick on you and say, hey, you, Nathan, what do you think? And you're not going to have that chance to go up in front of the room and show everybody your theory or show everybody your great art or your great music or whatever it is that you've got. Now, I'm not saying I'm a teacher at all, but I'm just saying that you cannot hide who you are under some kind of bushel barrel and say that the reason that you're under this bushel barrel is because nobody loves you, nobody cares about you, and you're better than them, but nobody's seen it yet. Let people see it by letting go of that bushel barrel and getting rid of the globe earth thinking.
Yes, but the thing is, people won't see that you're better than them. People will see that you're good. This better means more good. That's what the word better means. So be more good, but don't expect people to consider you to be superior, because it's not going to happen. They're going to consider you to be equal, no matter how much you achieve or how much you fail to achieve. You're already equal. You know, some people just don't see this.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I mean, when we're chatting on Skype, this is the thing that I'm trying to get across. We're not plotting. We're just a load of people, just people chatting. And the same goes for all of the other, what people call big names in Flat Earth. You know, when Matt Powerland joins in on a conversation, he's just some guy joining in on the conversation. Nobody's going to stick him on a pedestal because he's who he is. It doesn't work like that. Now, some people want to internalize that and say, well, actually, I am more important. I should be put on this pedestal. And things get spun in a negative way. A good example of this is when you did the Flatty Awards. Rather than saying, oh, look, somebody's been praised. I mean, I got a Flatty Across the Pond award, and it was the best feeling ever. I was elated. I did a live broadcast on Facebook afterwards. I was so chuffed. But people, you know, if I hadn't, I wouldn't have been the guy that went, why wasn't I recognised? I'm surely good enough to be on that list. But loads of people did. And it's not, oh, yes, all those great people I haven't heard of who got a Flatty, let's have a look into them and see what they're doing. Maybe I could try and emulate that person. And I've said this before, and I'm happy to say it now. I emulate what Patricia does. I'm just a cheap copy of her. You know, there's no. It's true. You know, I watch your shows and went, I want to do what she does. I want to be like her. And as sickening as that may sound to some people, I don't care. You know, you look at.
You need a red wig like I do.
Well, I didn't want to grow a pair of boobs. Let's put it that way. But what I did want was to emulate what you were doing, and I liked what you were doing, and therefore it made me smile. And I wanted to do that. Some people see what you're doing and go, I like what she's doing initially, and then eventually go, well, now I don't. Maybe you can explain this to me, Patricia. Where do people go? And you know, I'll happily name names and talk Star Gods and Dan Pratt and say, how do these people go from you're wonderful, Patricia, I really like you, to this person's a CIA shill, she's just bringing people. How does that happen? How does that turnaround actually take place?
I don't really know. In fact, one of the people that you've mentioned, or someone, well, we won't even mention, said that going on my show is akin to going to a CIA data collection place, where if you go on my show, I get all your data and I'm collating some sort of larger list. Well, yeah, I guess you can look on my channel and see who's been on my channel, but you can go to YouTube and see those same people on their own channels. So no, that's not the case. I don't know. I think people, especially the people you mentioned, they were really happy to be on. They saw that I treated them as an equal, because we are equals during the show. I asked them before they started the show with me, is there anything you don't want me to ask about? And you know, they gave their answer to that. Nothing was controlled about what they said. They were not, well, both of you know, nothing was said to you like, don't talk about this. I mean, you could talk about whatever you wanted. Nothing was controlled or manipulated, and it never is. And afterwards, every single person I've interviewed, I believe, maybe except one who didn't know and hung up accidentally afterwards, chats with me off air for maybe 15, 20 minutes when we're done with the show, talking about how it went and what you thought and what you should have said, and we laugh, and everybody parts saying to each other, thank you. I'm thanking them. They're thanking me. It's fantastic. And then I continue sharing their videos and then putting new people on, and sometimes I include some of those people in panel shows that I have later if we've developed even more of a deeper personal relationship. Here I am with both of you right now on your show that you've been kind enough to have me on. That happened as a function of this whole connector thing that we talked about, the wooden Tinker Toys and then the sticks that come out. We're building something together. We're all really connecting each other. But I don't know what happens when somebody who was incredibly happy one day just turns around and starts making videos saying that I'm in the CIA or
I think
Mossad.
I think it's
what is it?
Sorry, Patricia. I think it goes back to what you said initially. People have a chip on the shoulder or have a problem, a damage, a kink, and it carries on. So the turning on people, that's probably something that's already in them. That they've not managed to heal yet. If I can just bring attention to a comment that Cathexis made. Cathexis, yes, the divine feminine and the divine masculine. This is the divine feminine that we're hearing now. So, sorry, not from my voice, from Patricia's voice. The idea that the globe has, that women gentle and therefore weak is false. You can be gentle or strong like a river or the tide. So also, I want to say to Cathexis, happy birthday.
Oh, lovely. Happy birthday.
Yes. So
that would make them astrologically, I should know this. Taurus?
Well,
Taurus. I think it's Taurus.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes. So, but I wanted to clarify something because I know some people misconstrue. Some people have the kind of ears that look for discrepancies and will misconstrue things and see a discrepancy. Patricia just said, after being on a show, we will often, or she often talks and says what you should have said. Okay. She wasn't saying this. We talk and I say to them, you should have said this. No, no. Like when I was with her show, we chatted and I said, oh, I should have said. And
exactly.
at other points, Patricia said, oh.
Yeah, exactly. What you mean is we've got a whole bunch of notes that we scribble down when we're thinking about the show. Then we end up doing this, which is just being enthralled in each other's conversation, not looking at the notes. And we go, we didn't get to talk about that. That was really important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I have this as well. I have a couple notes, but I don't have my glasses on, so I can't read them, so they're useless.
You can put your glasses on. We'll hold the fort if you want, you know.
I think we're covering what we were thinking we were going to cover, but it's true. After every show I do, I know that I feel, oh, darn. In fact, I had the Morgul on, and I forgot to ask him what the name the Morgul means, how he got that name. That was one of the most important things I wanted to ask him. I know it's not pertinent to how the Earth is flat, but yet to me, we have a guy among us called the Morgul. That's weird. Why? After the interview, I said to him, I forgot to ask, after we had hung up. So, and he probably had things he forgot to say to me as well. So it's been happy. Every single interview after has been happy. And I've carried on relationships with many of those people, even if it's just liking and sharing and commenting on their videos or sharing them on Facebook or, talking with them occasionally on Facebook for the most part. But there's been a few people who have vehemently turned against me and made videos against me. But I haven't changed since the day that I interviewed them. Other than maybe I got a microphone and I didn't have one before, or I got a little better at speaking, excuse me. See, I'm not that good at speaking if I use the word talking when I meant speaking. You know what I'm saying. We just get better at what we do as we progress in what we do. But I'm still the same person doing the same thing with the same ultimate goal of trying to be a connector and helping spread other people's flat earth messages. So why they get mad at why do they get mad at me? Why do they go against me? They're hurt inside for the most part, and I don't know why. I didn't hurt them, and I don't want them to hurt. I want them to be happy. Flat Earth should make everyone happy, although when you think about it, it's really miserable that we've been lied to the way we have, and our money's been stolen from us, and our children are being lied to, and all of the things that are happening on the plane, like we were speaking of before, vaccines and whatever chemtrails are. We should be incredibly mad, and I encourage people to be mad because you can use that anger to bring about change. But also there's that inner happiness that we have, most of us have. It's a feeling of connectedness with truth and then with each other as a community. So fighting with each other,
or not with the community element, because we're not connected. It's back to the smell and the taste and the feel and the touch. Putting your arms around somebody when you meet them at a mixer is very different to this. And the guy, Steve, I think his name was, really drew this home to me. He said that he'd driven several hundred miles to meet me and Martin and my wife because he didn't think we were real. And Mark and you and I discussed this, and I think her name's Mountain Mama, but somebody had met Mark Sargent, and she had physically interacted with him, but then after doing this had then changed her views or reverted back to her original views that this was, a non-guy or... Yeah, basically. And you think...
But she had lunch with him in Colorado. She says she has, so, I don't know who she is. She's a YouTube commenter with just a blue head picture, not a physical, unless she's changed it. You don't know who she is. You know how you can go to some people's channels and you can see lots of videos and pictures. This is one who isn't. But she's a consistent commenter. I'm only assuming it's a woman because of the name Mama, of Mountain Mama. But yeah, she actually met Mark in person and still believes that he's an agent of destruction and is actually having sex with Orphan Red and I which is weird.
So what I heard was that she didn't think Mark was real, and then after meeting him, she reverted to thinking that he's still not real. I don't understand how you can meet somebody that's not real.
But that's what this Steve guy said. That's exactly the words he used. I didn't think you were real. I mean, this is YouTube. It's about real people. We're not the BBC. This is about anybody with an account that comments can make a video. It's YouTube.
Yes,
it's not Hollywood where you have to, like, whether it's the casting couch or being in the Illuminati, we don't know how you get to be a big star in Hollywood. Maybe it's just being a really great actor or actress or becoming a personality. It's YouTube. Anybody can make a video and people will know you.
Wait, Patricia, you just said no casting couch. So what was that session that I had with Star Gods? What was that all about?
He said it was necessary.
Yes, that was disgusting. It horrified me. It took me a long time to get past it. Just to let you know, Event Skeptic said, Patricia, I think he's referring to the Morgal, the name. He says, Patricia, it's a gamer name.
Yes, because I've asked for the Morgal later after.
A Morgal plug, actually. He's just done it's quite long, it's about 5 hours, but he does a full audiobook version of a several installment series called The Iron Republic. Well worth a listen. I've got about 2 hours into it so far, but I'm going to listen to the rest of it when I get a chance.
I was so pleased when he was on Globebusters with Bob and Jaron, the last Globebusters show.
Yeah, it was really happy.
Yes, it was happy to see them together, united and doing their thing. Whether or not they'll be together on other Globebusters, I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. But if there is a no to that, that won't be because there's dislike or animosity. It's just because they're busy doing other things. So it's really great to see that. I feel so pleased when I see people getting along. I feel so sad when people are not getting along.
We're human.
I sent a message to Eric the Bay after one of his videos where I was kind of trying to get through to him that it would be really, really good if he wasn't separated like he is. There's this shill list and all these things. It would be so awesome if Eric the Bay was playing with us. You know, I don't mean like, you know, messing around
like
with
you
us.
and Star Gods.
Yes. No, I mean, if he you know, if you're playing a game and there's somebody over there who's not playing with you and you'd like them to play with you, you know, to engage, to join in, to contribute, you know, I just think it would be really good. I think it would do him good. I myself suspect that he has a group of friends, of people around him that he might or might not be aware, gatekeeping stuff that reaches him. This is just a suspicion, and I could be completely wrong, but I think the only way to really come to the conclusion that somebody is a shill when they're not is if other people are trying to convince you that they are a shill. So with Dan Pratt, we saw the comments after he made the apology video. There were a lot of people trying to goad him into going back to making the hater videos. And just so everybody out there is fully aware of this, let's suppose there was an agent. They wouldn't look like Patricia Steer. They would look like me, okay? I have actually known people who worked undercover. My ex-girlfriend. Somebody's ex-girlfriend that I know.
Shut up!
Right, no. But what I'm saying is this, okay? If the CIA planted somebody, they would also plant a history, a really easy history to find, okay? So if you find Patricia's history really easily, it could be because she's a plant, or it could be because that's her history. The point is, there is no way that a private detective would discover that the CIA had planted somebody. This is part of what they do. They give a back history so that when people check them out, they show as completely verifiable. So it's a stupid thing to do, to assume that you can figure out who is a shill by looking into history. Come on, wisen up.
Well, people have said that I'm in the CIA because the name PATRICIA has CIA as the last three letters, and that's the powers that should not be putting it right in front of our faces. But actually, it's a very popular name from the 50s and 60s that my parents gave me. And you don't really find too many Patricias unless they're a little bit older, unless that name comes around to fashion again, like names sometimes do. But then again, the CIA could have known all that and put the CIA last letters in my name in order to make people think it would be so stupid for the name to be right in CIA to be right in the name. There's many ways to look at this.
As we're entertaining it, I mean, Crow 777, all credit to him, again, another non-flat earther, was asked in a recent interview specifically about flat Earth, and he gave a really interesting answer, which wasn't to say that he wasn't or was or either, but he said that if you form groups, they become much more easy to infiltrate. So he doesn't want to attach himself to a group, which was a similar answer to CD when he did the Mechanics of the Fourth Order, when he was on this show, which was to say that he didn't want to attribute himself to that. Now, we're on a show talking about the social aspects of specifically flat Earth. How do you think you can, if Crow 777 was on this show right now and he was saying, well, you're just easily infiltrated, looking at you with one squinting eye, what would you say to that?
To me?
No, I was going to ask Patricia. She's the one that, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been accused of being a CIA agent. I mean, I've had my first one, so I've become James Bond. I'm quite pleased.
I know.
Patricia, you see it differently.
Well, I played with it when I got it right away, actually, when I think on my second video or so.
Okay.
I believe my third video was an interview, Mark Sargent from Strange World, and of course Flat Earth Clues said he wanted to interview me, and he said, we corresponded, and he said, I want to ask you about your background. I want to ask you all these questions. It may seem boring, but I want people to know where you came from, where you grew up, what you're all about, because you're going to be labeled a shill. And I didn't understand that as much, because when you're really new to flat Earth, a lot of people don't even know what that word shill means. They think it means it actually does mean, as I've talked about before, and we've probably all talked about, if there was a gathering of people and a man was standing on a podium and he was saying, come around, 99 cents a bottle for this special oil, it'll cure all your ills. And then somebody in the audience says, I've tried it and it worked. I used to be blind and now I can see. That person's the shill. So within Flat Earth, it seems to be the label that means somebody who's paid or not paid. Maybe they're CIA, maybe they're FBI, maybe they're whatever.
Or not. Sorry to interrupt.
Or not.
But David Weiss and I discussed this. Can I just? I've got to jump in here because David Weiss was on. I keep going back to this. It's one of those shows like when you had Jesse Spots and Rob and Matrix and loads of others on after Tiger Down had his little meltdown. But David Weiss did a very similar pinnacle show for me, which was called Race Wars. And on there, it was another one of those, damn, I wish I'd said that at the time when he was doing the show. But for me, it was an important show. I digress slightly here, because he was there. They were actually around a table, and he could, sense the feeling in the air when a girl was being really het up. He could slightly condescend to her, and you just got that impression that, not like now where we talk over each other every now and again, and there's a bit of feedback when I'm not using an earpiece and all that sort of stuff. It's not like that. But David Weiss was kind of saying that people will perpetuate the lies and they're not being paid a dime. So everyone on that panel was talking about NASA and how real it was, and not necessarily NASA, but flow proofs and how real they were. And they're not investigating this. David Weiss is essentially the expert on that table, but they're challenging him based on a belief that, as I've shown in one of my videos, is seeded into us from about 2 or 3 years old. And they're prepared to fight him tooth and nail. So they are all shills, none of them being paid to do.
We don't need paid shills in the movement, because people will, outside of it, are going to act as if they are. And no one needs to throw a dime at them. But being called a paid agent, as I have been, or an unpaid agent, or I don't even understand that, because all I really do is interview people. I don't have a model that I subscribe to.
You have CIA at the end of your name.
I know. My parents shouldn't have named me that. But anyway,
And you steer the movement.
I steer the movements. And I've heard this written, and this person puts it in comments all the time, that they say a cow patty is bullshit, and that's all she talks about. So my whole name has this whole breakdown. But it's because some of these people think that I'm gatekeeping, and then you fill in the blank. I'm gatekeeping the holohoax. I'm gatekeeping chemtrails. I'm gatekeeping 9/11. I'm gatekeeping vaccines.
Are these people experts on these subjects? Because I'm sure you would have them. It's flat Earth and other hot potatoes.
Right, and I talk about those things during shows with the various guests that I have, because all flat earthers aren't just, I'm a flat earther and I talk about nothing else. All flat earthers have another thing they're interested in too. A lot of people in flat earth came from starting off with 9/11. It's a big one for many, and a lot of people were involved in Mr. Flat Taxi Rainbow Chemtrails. I mean, he's got chemtrails in his name. That's something he's interested in. He goes out and takes pictures of them. He's been on my show, and we talk about those things during the show. I'm not gatekeeping anything. However, am I doing show after show after show with exclusive Holocaust content? No. Eric Dubé's where you go for that. Flat Earth and the Flat Earthers, small or bigger channels, we're like a library. YouTube itself is the greatest library ever. But we are all a library. You go to the library and you can't get mad at the book that you took out about home improvement because this book doesn't talk about dog walking. You can't be angry at this book and burn it because of that. You need to go select the book that does talk about the topic that you want. And sometimes one book will have 7 different topics in it. But it doesn't mean you're gatekeeping. It just means you have your own topics, and you appreciate other people's topics, and you have other people talk about those topics on your show, if you're me. Or even if you're a person that just wants to talk about flat Earth and chemtrails, to go back to Mr. Flat Taxi Rainbow Chemtrails. David Weiss talks a lot about, like Sandy Hook and 9/11 and flat Earth. But is he gatekeeping? Right, exactly. Is he gatekeeping veganism? Is he? Because he doesn't talk about veganism? No, he's not vegan, and that's not his subject of interest. We could all be gatekeeping something. I mean, I think right now, Antonio, you're gatekeeping fashion. You don't ever talk about fashion. You're a shill. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's just everybody should be able to, everybody is able to do whatever they want to do on their own channel. And, it's...
Just because we're truthers...
just be you.
Doesn't mean, like, the truth is that we are truthers. The flat earthers, if we want to call ourselves flat earthers, we talk about the truth, about the shape of where we live. And so many of us know so many truths about other things and so many misdirections over other things. It's difficult to discern which is which, because with all of the other things, you have to rely on reports, on others' testimony, on anecdotal stories. With the flat Earth, you don't need to rely on any of those things.
No, but you've got. But if you're a globalist, you're falling. It's back to the 3 and 4 year old ideas. You're falling back on something. Again, this is 4th mention. Jeff Stewart Scott. I can't believe this. But he said that when you
Jeff
take.
Stewart show.
I know. I can't believe it. But he said that when you take away people's conceptions of the globe. So if you take the example of someone Patricia talked about, who's got a fundamental issue, and they will always be able to hold the globe as something true, something fundamental, something. It's back to Jaron saying, no, we can't go back that far. We can't assume that that's nonsense as well, talking about the globe. And that's most people's reaction. Surely that bit's true. You get people looking into 9/11 or looking into Sandy Hook, and they pick it to pieces and see the preponderance of evidence and go, yeah, okay, that doesn't make sense. But then you present Flat Earth with them, and they go, well, no, that's got to be held true. I've known that since dot. Doesn't matter what's happened since the tragedies that have befallen me, because I can always hold that universal truth. And you're taking that away from them. What are you giving them in return? Not a lot. Yeah, it's flat. Okay, flat water, flat Earth. Here's a few proofs. That's about it. I say we don't need to look at the stars. Well, I still do, and so do a lot of other people, and they still want the explanations, and they're not exactly getting them in spades. It's not a good position. You can see why people get angry.
Well, the thing is that the globe required a model because it's not true. Just like in the Lord of the Rings, they required a story and different creatures to tell that story. So in the flat Earth, which is the reality of where we live, the realm in which we live, we don't actually require a model to explain it. I'm echoing what you're saying, Nathan. So they required a model, and they say to us, "Show us your model." So no, we don't have to show anything. We can if we want.
This specific star, and
we can if we want. Yeah, we can if we want, but we don't have to. We don't have to explain away things like the horizon, which the globe model explains away by moving you into outer space and showing you, these 3D movements of the spheres. They have to show you that. They can't place you back on the Earth with the horizon and say, "Oh, look, you see this full moon? You see how it's daytime? Oh, look, you're seeing it right through this curve." They can't do that, so they remove you and they say, "Look, this is the position of the full moon in relation to the Earth and the sun." We don't need models.
We're talking about something that requires intelligence, and I don't want to go. I know this is mechanics of the fourth wall, but it's a social episode.
Yes.
So I want to kind of keep it on the lines of how does that relate back to the whys and wherefores of people's cognitive dissonance or their social behaviour in the flat Earth arena, because it gets a lot of attention in that regard. So yes, I can say, we're not big in terms of, even if you compare it to Armoured Skeptic, who's in a similar arena, he's got a million more subscribers than most flat earthers, and that won't raise any eyebrows at all. It's just another guy making videos for YouTube. But when it's us, the comments seem to be exponentially large, a lot of them, a lot of passion goes into them, and how that relates back to us actually being a lot happier. We're smiling when we're talking about things that are, globalists attacking us, throwing their retainers out of the bed cot. That's what we're talking about. And how can we explain that just having your eyes open to something? Again, at the beginning of the show, I opened up with saying it's because we are literally on a different level to some people, and that has nothing to do with their degree of intelligence, if you know what I mean, Antonio. Yeah, we'll do a flat Earth proof video next time, but in this one, it's kind of, regardless of whether you can dissect at the eye level horizon or whatever flat Earth proof you pick. How do we just look at the social aspects and say, well, we shouldn't be swearing and shouting over this flat Earth thing? It's just not necessary. How can we evolve beyond that? Was how I was going to round up.
Well, you've just given me an idea. How when I interact with my colleagues, globalists, and I love them to bits. It's like you were saying before, Patricia, and Nathan, you're married to a globalist, so. You can love somebody who doesn't have the same, who hasn't come to the same realization. There's nothing wrong with that, really. Just from my point of view, it would be impossible for me to be emotionally entangled with somebody like that, because I would, so this is what I'm thinking. You just prompted this thought. So when we're talking with them, a lot of what I've noticed is that a lot of them assume that we think we are superior. We have glimpsed this truth that they can't see. So I'm going to take what you've said, Nathan, that we're on a different level, and I'm going to start adopting a terminology whenever I talk about this with them. I'm going to say, well, what it is I'm at a lower level than you. Because that infers that I have less intelligence, less things. But what I'm actually saying is the level at which I'm at is like the sea level, the earth level, not the lofty level of space. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say what it is I'm at a lower level. And I can see things from this lower level that you can't. And that's it. That's what I'm going to do, to try to diffuse all this, the animosity. Because the animosity we have is it's a real animosity, you know. It can drag people down. It often drags. I know Martin Lichke.
It's way beyond animosities. There's hatred. There's hatred out there. We experienced it firsthand on Spaceman's Hangout, and we've got whatever his name is, Gems Panda, in our chat room right now. You know, people who are pretty angry about us. And you think, well, you know, back to ketchup versus mustard. Who cares?
The thing I find hilarious is that so this happens. Globalists, certain globalists, a certain show that I kind of crashed a while ago, they kind of assume that we think we're superior. Then they try to demonstrate that they are the ones who are superior by thinking that a scientific theory is a fact. And if you sit them down and say, look, first look at what the meaning of the word fact is, and then look at, you can do all this explaining, but the animosity doesn't go away, because they will either accuse you of being condescending, or they will just simply not absorb anything that you're saying because they have this wall of cognitive dissonance there. It will not let them see the truth. So even when you're talking about facts, which is, you know, as true as numbers, you know, so I'm thinking a way of diffusing, or at least attempting to diffuse the animosity, because in the chat, the majority of the people who are watching this are already flat earthers, and they know some of the animosity that's arrived. So, which is why we derive such a sense of support from them, and they derive such a sense of support from us. So, it's to the broader world. I'm starting to think that maybe we shouldn't be too troubled about the broader world. Maybe we should just wait and see the outside world come towards the flat Earth, rather than trying to reach out.
You think it's going to be accepted as the norm eventually? And so
yes, I think it's inevitable.
What are those stages, actually, Antonio? Just for the audience, I won't take this away from you, but what are those stages? So first it's violently opposed, right?
Yes. No, first it's ridiculed.
Sorry, ridiculed.
Yes. Then is violently opposed. And then it's widely held as truth all along. So
we're in between stage 1 and 2 now.
Yes, and there are trolls out there who have been at stage 2 from the word go. These are the kind of people who would abuse people questioning 9/11, who would say things like, "You're being disrespectful to the families of those, those who lost loved ones." It's like, whoa, one second. They're doing the opposite. They're showing the highest form of respect to them by trying to uncover what's happened. Here in the UK, years ago, more than 20 years ago, we had a disaster at a football game, a soccer game for Americans. We had a disaster where hundreds, I think it was close to 200 fans were killed by the police. Yes.
It's Hillsborough.
Yeah, the Hillsborough disaster. These people were killed by the police. Now, they were killed by the police not with machine guns or truncheons. They were killed by being herded into a space that was so small with horses. So you can't argue with a police horse herding you in somewhere, okay? They were herded into a place that caused so much weight that a platform collapsed. And there's been an investigation that has continued since then. Very quickly, the original official conclusion was that this was the fault of footballers who had broken into the match and overloaded this platform. Because people didn't let this go, the truth has finally come out. And the reason people didn't let this go is that it was disrespectful to the families of those who lost loved ones. The people who are carrying on with the 9/11 conspiracy, the people who are still uncovering and pushing, the people like Judy Wood, people who are saying, hey, the official story is bullshit. What's the truth? These people are showing the highest respect. So the kind of people who had huge animosity towards 9/11 truthers came onto the flat earth with that level, that stage 2 animosity, that violent opposition. And they will go away. Some people live in that stage all their life. Luckily, they tend to be short lives because of the stress that they go through. But I'm really starting to consider the idea that just by increasing our numbers in terms of people who are already aware of the flat Earth, not so much by reaching out and trying to make people aware of it, but just allowing. Nobody grabbed me and made me aware of it. I came to it, same as Nathan, Patricia.
Patricia is actually reaching out to people.
No. What she's doing is she's supporting people who are already in the flat Earth. And so then there are people coming, looking into it, coming across Patricia's channel, finding more.
Oh, she's here. More. We're doing it again. I'm sorry, Patricia.
Yeah, sorry,
you can speak to this directly. You're here.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
I mean, I'm going with what you're saying, Antonio, completely. That I came to the Flat Earth on my own, in the privacy of my own home. Nobody told me about it. I had never even heard anything about the Earth being flat. I didn't even ever hear that the moon landings were fake, believe it or not. I found that on my own, and then that kind of moved forward to where I am today. I believe the key to what we want to achieve is making a safe place for people who are flat earthers, people who are flat earthers who are Catholic, Christian, Buddhist, Jewish, black, white, Asian.
No, not Jews. Not Jews. Not Jews.
Right. No. Oh, gay and straight, whatever it is that you are, make it a safe place for you to come out of the closet. And
in the interest of balance, Jews are fine.
Yes, I'm Jewish. I'm Jewish. Just letting everybody know I'm Jewish. Okay, so don't worry about it.
Making more flat earthers is more important than fighting with the globalists. So what you were saying, Antonio, is that I understand fighting with the globalists at times is quite tempting, like the hangout you did with Spaceman, because he was so utterly insulting. But general globalists, people will, the more flat earth videos we have, the more flat earth videos people make, the more material is out there that people will stumble upon. And when they do stumble upon it, when they look at the flat earth world and see we're tearing each other apart, that might make them be a little fearful, have trepidation, not want to involve themselves as much, thus not make as many videos. So for the greater good, being nice to each other helps on a multitude of levels. It helps emotionally, psychologically. You'll feel better yourself in your own heart that you've not spent your whole day screaming at others. And if we have that happening in the flat earth world, we'll have more flat earthers who'll feel confident to come out. And there'll be more material that globalists will stumble upon when they start investigating, as opposed to stumbling upon videos with people screaming at each other. So.
Yes, and also when you mention veganism, I think it's like just as it's kind of impossible to realize you're on a flat Earth without also being aware that it must have been created. It didn't come from a Big Bang, so there must be an energy or a family of energies that were involved in the whole creation. It's also, I think, very difficult to arrive at the conclusion we're on the flat Earth and there's a creator and it's okay to eat animals that have been caused incredible stress just before being slaughtered at the end of a life that was filled with despair and depression. I think it's kind of a natural progression to realize maybe it's not okay to participate in that. Maybe just by being the change you want to see and not partaking, eventually it's going to come to the point where there will be less demand, and that's how things get sorted. Gandhi was right. Be the change you want to see in the world. So if you want to see less suffering in the world, partake in less suffering. You know, you eat food that went through incredible stress. You don't know whether there's a knock-on effect in some esoteric realm that you know nothing about. We don't know, but we know that the pain and suffering is not justified. We don't need to eat. In fact, it's kind of against our physiology to eat that kind of food. So going back to what you said about the veganism, how people can be flat earthers and still be nasty. I'm not saying that if you're not vegan you're nasty, okay? But how people can, how flat earthers can think that there's no creator, there's a glitch there. How they can think that being nasty is still okay, there's a glitch there. how they can think that ignoring the whole meat industry thing, which you can do. I did it for a long time.
We all did it.
That's also
Well,
a glitch.
you're discussing something that's actually come up in the comments by Michael Craig, and he said, excuse me, isn't curiosity in general a prerequisite to flat Earth? And you're talking about, you keep saying the word think. Well, maybe you'd want to address that. Is it just that we're curious by nature, and that's how we've come across these truths?
This is probably quite true. Good point. I've always been that person. I've always been the person that found my parents' stash of Christmas presents and one year slit them open to see what they were and taped them back up. Of course, I learned that was horrible because then you have no surprise come Christmas. But yes, always been a very curious person. Taking something apart to see how it works, not being able to put it back together again and getting in trouble. We're all kind of taking apart the world that we live in, and we don't want to put it back together again. And we can't get in any trouble because the truth speaks for itself. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Antonio.
Well, what I found was there was a sense of disquiet, which was always. I always attributed to living in the UK that we had, when I moved to the UK, we had this active terrorist group called the IRA, which turned out to be infiltrated by the British Armed Forces, who climbed their way to the top because it was a dog-eat-dog world out there, even though dogs don't eat dogs. But they were in the IRA, climbed their way to the top, to the point where they were the bomb makers, to the point where they were the people who were placing the bombs and calling the authorities to say, we just placed the bomb. So there was always a reason to link to this, a feeling that there was something not right with the world. So it was first, terrorism, then New World Order, then other things, and eventually you come to the flat Earth, and that disquiet feeling goes away, and you think, aha, that's what was wrong with the world, and you notice that disquiet has gone away.
It's in your solar plexus, really. You can actually literally feel it. And flat Earth is the great aha, and all those other things, those little niggling doubts, feelings, and suspicions, they all really come clear. Some people have said that they feel that I push veganism too hard, and that's part of what the New World Order wants. To answer, I don't quite understand it, but to answer that, I don't push veganism hard. I suggest it. I suggest people look into it, even if it's a tiny amount that they take on board that, and then just see how they feel and how they think, and then make their own decisions or do some research on it. But the New World Order wants us to eat meat and dairy. The New World Order wants us to create lots of trash and pollution. Even if they say, global warming and recycle, since that's all a lie and all of that, they want us to consume, to measure our success with status. They want us to do these things. They want us tied into the pharmaceutical industry, which is where you're going to go if you eat lots of meat and dairy, because our human body, with the digestive tract that we have, the very long colon is not suited for meat. The animals that are suited to eat meat have a short colon because meat putrefies in the colon. Like if you left meat on your counter, it would also putrefy, I'm not making this up. And the animals that eat meat, they have a quick colon, so they can evacuate that rotted remains fast and out of their body. And they don't need to eat that much. They eat, and they sort of are fine for a while, then they need to go feed again. But our human colon is quite long, and we don't have the long nails. I mean, I've got relatively long nails, but we don't have claws so that we can rip flesh apart as animals that are carnivores do. We don't salivate when we see an animal walking by or a rabbit hop by. We don't start drooling. These are things that are not built into us. We don't have the abilities physically to run really fast either. We don't have the ability or the proclivity, actually, to kill and eat meat. We do it. It's through habits. Maybe there were times in society in the past when there was no vegetation. I'm not even quite sure how it all started. We can't look back at stories of evolution and find our answers there for sure. But
Talking of how things started, Patricia, and just to slightly take us off the subject of colons, fun though it is, got
yes,
a commenter
I think that's
question
a good idea.
from Malav Cocktail, who wants to know what your
Hi,
communication background is besides radio. She also says you're wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Malav like Olive. That's how you pronounce his name, and that's what was said to me. Let's see. Radio, just radio, actually. My mother and father were really excellent communicators. They loved language. They were always playing a continual game of Scrabble. There was a game of Scrabble laid out on a table in the basement of the house, and they would just continually go play it. When I was very small, whenever I'd be playing with toys and my mother was in another room doing something, and I asked, what does, and then I'd say a word, what does, I can't think of a word, somebody think of a word, light fixture mean? My mother would say, don't pick my brain, look it up. And I would have to get up and walk to the dictionary that was on, we had a step stool in front of it at one point, but when we got older we could walk up toward it on this sort of stand, big dictionary, and we'd have to go to the dictionary, look up the word, and read it out loud. That's just the way my mother thought we would learn. They were parents both very interested in words, very interested in reading, and it sort of filtered into me. And my father owned a radio station, so eventually one day I started working for him, and he was also on air as a DJ, so and on air as a morning show host. So just communication in general came easy to me because of the way I grew up, and I'm not shy, I'm not afraid. So just talking is second nature.
Cool. Before we round things up, maybe in a few minutes' time, guys, maybe Antonio, you could talk about is it flat?
Is it flat? Okay, before I do, I just want to echo what Patricia was saying. Not only is our digestive tract
back to colons. Warning. Colon warning.
No, but not only are we physiologically not built as carnivores. People say, oh, we have fangs, therefore we're carnivores. Gorillas have magnificent fangs, and they only eat veg. Okay, so sorry to poo-poo.
Maybe some ants occasionally
idea.
too. So
yeah, well, but also, where was I going to go? Oh yes, we live in large packs. There aren't any carnivores who live in large packs. Herd animals, vegetarian animals, live in large packs. In fact, the whole vaccination industry has this herd immunity that they talk about. It's disparaging, but we do live in large numbers. We clamor together. Okay, even the native tribes of America who traveled around, the nomadic tribes, they would gather for the winter so that the youth could meet other youth and there wouldn't be so much interbreeding. Is that inbreeding? But also because we are social creatures. Carnivores are not social creatures, okay? So there are lots of different facets in which the real world is giving us clues that we're not supposed to eat meat. Not only can we not catch it and eat it without tools, but we also have all these other things. So is the world flat, Nathan? You're asking me.
Well, no. Specifically, I wanted you to talk about the debate that's coming up maybe in about 2 or 3 weeks' time with John Le Bon.
Yes. Aha. Okay. Do I want to let the cat out of the bag?
That's not very vegan.
There's no cats to be let out of any bags, as far as I know. I mean, I've done an advert for it now. You've talked about it on chats. Patricia's talked about it. People have talked about it. It's just I wanted you to talk about it specifically, as it's you who've kind of instigated this off the back of John Le Bon challenging.
Oh,
his
yes.
Name was now.
Okay.
So it's a debate about flat Earth that's coming up soon, and Nathan, you're going to be the moderator. Am I correct on that? All right.
Yes.
Sounds good.
And Nathan is going to be impartial. I've had many conversations with Nathan where he's contradicting me and correcting me and back and forth. I trust Nathan to be a just referee, is it?
Yeah, referee's right. But I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think there'll be much refereeing. Both
No,
you and John
no.
are one of very respectful people. I hope it'll be a nice stage to just set a good example of how, just reasonable debate should take place. And John's a reasonable guy. He gets a lot of venom just because he asks questions. Most of the stuff he states in the comments where people go, he's doing this and that, it's got a question mark at the end of it. It's like, he's only asking.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that it's going to be fun. I will say that it's true. He made a video, JLB made a video about how the whole thing came about. It came about like this. He was challenging somebody who has no content, who makes no videos, to a debate. And I quickly looked at the person who was challenging to a debate, I don't see, why is he picking on this person? So I offered to debate him. That's how it happened.
You threw yourself on the ground.
Yeah. Well, I offered to debate him. That's what it was, to take the heat off the guy that he was challenging. And if the
in
guy,
the interest of balance, JLB is equally heroic.
yes. So in the interest of balance, so that's what happened. We do have a debate planned. I will be describing certain facets of the real world that are incontestable. He can contest them. He can attempt to contest them when something is incontestable. Like if you say you can't walk through a wall because the wall is solid and so are you, somebody can contest that simply by saying, yes, you can. They can't demonstrate it by walking through a wall, but they can still refuse to accept your point. And that might happen, it might not. John O'Bon was in the chat earlier, he left, purely because I was doing a good impression of being stupid. By the way, just to let everybody know, and this goes back to the veganism thing, just briefly, there are religions that are based on meat eating, one of them being Judaism, the other one being Islam. And Christianity itself talks about eating fish. This is in the dogma, so not so much in the actual religion, but in the actual religion of Judaism and Islam, meat eating is integral. Kosher is integral. There's no kosher vegetables. The kosher is all to do with the abuse of animals. So and Muslims, Islam also, the halal is implicitly and explicitly associated with the suffering of animals. So
if you've ever seen halal slaughter or kosher slaughter of animals,
yes,
you can find it on YouTube.
Gary Yourofsky,
Yes.
or even Eric Dubé's video. Eric
Yes.
Dubé, he's got some awesome things, but
yes, he does.
Yeah, but
I
he doesn't
wish he
play.
could be here with us now.
Yes, he won't play with us. It's a shame. So, and also, just to clarify, I'm not actually Jewish. I think that religions, lots of different religions, they give comfort to people in lots of different ways. To me, they give me comfort by way of understanding that none of them have anything to do with me. So I say that I'm Jewish, really as a joke, and also because I'm single and I would like women to immediately think about my penis.
From colons to penises and beyond. Mechanics of the Fourth Wall with Antonio Subritz and Nathan Oakley.
Yes.
It's all in serious context. We haven't lowered the tone. It's all fair enough.
No.
We're allowed to talk about colons. It's a serious subject.
Exactly.
So, but just to clarify, I'm not actually Jewish. And if I was Jewish, I would be Jewish. But it wouldn't mean that I know lots of Jewish people who don't observe any of the Jewish things, who are just Jewish out of tradition or out of...
And a lot of Jews aren't Zionists.
Yeah,
as well.
This is the other thing. A lot of Zionists are not Jews.
A lot of Freemasons aren't outright liars.
Yes, and in fact, anybody who thinks that Jewish equals Zionist, I urge you to go and look. This is for Eric Dubé. If anybody here is in contact with him, just urge him to look at the anti-Zionist Jews in Israel who do demonstrations and are abused by the IDF and the Israeli police because they make demonstrations with banners and placards that say Israel is an illegal state, it is a Zionist state. Because you see, according to the Judaic religion, the only way that Israel will ever exist, according to their Torah, is when the Messiah returns. So if the Jewish state exists and the Messiah has not returned, then that's called a lie. It's called illegitimate because it's based on the historical basis of there having been in Israel briefly and Israel then coming back at some point. And when it was briefly, it was only in an imaginary sense anyway. So it is, there are Jewish people out there who are just as kind as the kind Muslims, you know. Just painting everybody with the same brush is a bit unfair. And not everybody who wears a red top is a Manchester United supporter or an anarchist from Spain. You know, you can't just take everybody and group them together in the same way that we can't, unfortunately, group all flat earthers and see that all of them are kind and gentle people. Unfortunately, we can't do that because it's not true. And it applies to other areas like Zionism linked to Judaism and vegans being weak. The Shaolin monks, for those who don't know, are vegan and always have been. That's for anybody who's interested in martial arts. The creators.
I hate to end the show by me contradicting you, but I say this all the time and I stand by it, which is that people are people. And this is through experience of meeting people who are super, super rich, to, you know, talking and having conversations with people who are penniless, you know, tramps, and everything in between. And everybody seems to be, at least from my experience, on a similar level. In other words, I know what you're saying, you can't group certain types of people, Muslims, Jews, in stereotypes, but I, in a much larger scale, do say people are people, we're all the same. So I don't know if we talked about this earlier, my memory's a bit vague to this, but when we were talking about people like Math Powerland and saying, you know, don't put these people on pedestals, same with Eric Dubay, you know, he's just a guy. If my message for Eric Dubay wouldn't be anything like yours, it'd be, drop us an email. It'd be nice to see that you're, you know, just a sound guy like Antonio or Patricia or Mark or David, whoever. You know, it'd be nice to just know that, because I've never had a response from Eric Dubay. I'm sure Patricia has, but then has lost touch as he's presumed she's a shill. I'm trying to round this out with keeping it kind of on a way of saying that we're all equals, we're all just people, and it is grouping people together by saying people are just people, and we're all kind of the same and have the same motivations and drives, be it people who are stinking rich with ludicrous amounts of money, or the people in charge. We're all kind of still the same, which is kind of flying in the face of what you've said, but I know you're talking about different specific groups, being ethnicities or whatever. But that's my way of just, you know, people are people is my way of rounding out a show that's about social dynamics.
Well, is there
anything you guys want to add before we end the show?
Yes, this is what I mean, everybody, all the people in the chat. This is what I mean about Nathan contradicting me. He does this all the time, and then, yeah, I love him to bits anyway.
Sorry.
No,
I don't know. Did you feel that, Patricia? I mean, I felt like I haven't touched my notes, and this has been much more like one of our Skype conversations than most of the
we don't need these. We don't need no stinking notes.
No, and also Nathan, I don't mind hanging around longer, because I think that you and I, especially I, have spoken more than. I would rather hear more from Patricia. If anybody has a problem with staying longer, Patricia or Nathan, and discussing and having Patricia discuss anything that she might want to discuss, to bring up. We don't have a deadline in the real world, do we?
No, not at all.
Well, sometimes you set it. I know I set my Google Hangouts for a period of time, and then when it passes that time, it might shut it off. So you may have a deadline I'm unaware of. But I think everything's covered, and I know when we end the Hangout, I'll be like, oh, I forgot this, I forgot that. But we touched on almost all of the most important things, I think, at least at this point, and maybe we'll do, if you invite me back, another show and touch on things that we forgot this time. I think it's an endless well of information here on Flat Earth that every day brings new exciting things, sad things, changes, and such. It's a fun ride, isn't it? I'm enjoying every single moment of it and all the people that I've come in contact with. And I you know, my main thing always is love. And I know I've been criticized for let's all sing Kumbaya, but I think love is the thing that we really all have in common. Even the people who dislike other flat earthers, in their heart, when they're home alone, they love their mother, their father, their sister, their brother, their dog, their cat, or something. We all value love, and I value it in this let's call it a community, and in this movement, if we want to call it a movement. So I'm here to do that. Connect with love, and sometimes have fun, say jokes, and talk about colons.
Yeah, I could definitely echo that. I mean, the promo for this was covered in hearts, and I said to Sasha when I was talking to her last night, I don't want to say I was projecting Sasha, God heaven forbid, but I was thinking, how would Sasha approach this? I want it to be about love, and I've got no qualms about saying that there's a lot of love between Antonio and I, and it's totally platonic. But when you phrase it like that, I was going to make this comparison when you were talking about Mark. I'm sure it's much more comparable when you talk about Mark Sargent to how I would talk about Antonio. Do you know what I mean by that?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
do you know
exactly.
what? So sorry to jump in, Nathan. When I go to Spain, usually my cousin comes to meet me. Okay, he's a Spanish guy. He's a couple of years older than me, and I've always kind of looked up to him because he used to batter me whenever we fought, and I used to fight him all the time. So he's always been stronger than me. Okay, and when he comes to meet me at the airport, he always gives me a Spanish hug. There's a different kind of hug, okay, that I always forget when I'm in the UK. But, well, now I haven't because I paid attention to it last time that he gave me a hug. And it's a family hug, okay? I'm looking forward to giving you this hug. And, like, it's a good hug, I have one of my globalist friends. We were getting really tense, arguing, and I said to him, dude, it looks like you need a hug. Really, it was I needed a hug. And he said, no. And I said, well, then can I have a hug, please? And he gave me a hug, and that was it. The animosity was gone. The words, we're still speaking the same kind of words, but the timbre of the voice, the stress, the gestures, they were all so much more gentle. So I'm looking forward to hugging you, Nathan. I'm also looking forward to hugging you, Patricia. I would love to give everybody in the chat a hug. Martin, a big hug. David Wise, I'm looking forward to giving him a hug. Everybody.
But we do it. We do it with what we put out, the fruits of our labors.
Sorry.
Oh, my gosh, Bob.
That's a guy I want to hug. And Cammy, I want to hug her. Maybe not the same way as Bob, But
absolutely. Everybody who's in the chat as well, because everybody in the chat tonight has been really nice. And we've had JLB in there, we've had James Panda in there, we've had Jesse in there. Everyone's been playing really nice. It's been lovely. Good. It's been a really great show.
It has been. And I think that the work that people put out, I'll call it work, really it's more like fun or something I'm compelled to do, is my way of giving a hug to everybody and saying, hey, we're all the same, we're all united, the earth is flat, we're all on the level, let's do this thing. That's really what I feel. And I think it's the only way.
If you love what you do, you never have to work a day in your life.
Exactly. You're right.
Yes.
Well, Antonio Subrats, it's been wonderful, as always. And Patricia Steer, thank you very, very much for being on Mechanics of the Fourth Wall again.
Thank you. Hope to be on again.
You will be, Patricia. Just before you cut off, Nathan, sorry. I just read a comment from Martin. Just before you cut off, we will have you back. We want to have David Weiss. We're not going to not recycle. I mean, that's a dreadful term, but we will be having people that we've had before. When the time calls for it, we will have people back on, and it's going to be great.
Agreed. Thank you both.
Superb. Well, I've been Nathan Oakley. Thank you ever so much for joining us if you've joined us live, and to everybody in the chat also. Thank you very much for being here. This has been Mechanics of the Fourth Wall. I will see you all in the next video.